Hello, gamers. You're listening to the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. This is episode number 136. Welcome back to another edition of the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. I'm Brent Felsing, and joining me tonight, Ben Boyce and Bender Holt. Gentlemen, it's good to be back. I missed you guys. How you guys doing this evening?
Pretty good. We miss you too, buddy.
Oh, thanks, man. Bender,
what's all this Wii business? Let's settle down. Let's not jump the gun.
That's okay. I got all the texts from Ben to show that he missed me. So, but big shout out to you, Bender, for handling the editing duties the past 2 weeks. I really, really appreciate it. Show sounded great, and thank you very much for that, sir. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. Yeah, anytime, man.
Always fun. Bender. Editing is super fun, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's time consuming. It's not too bad.
It's not the worst job in the world.
Yeah.
Boyce, how you doing tonight, buddy?
Doing all right, man. It's good to see you again.
What's
going on in the back there, man? Looks like a new location.
Yeah, man. I finally got settled into the new house, and behind me you can see much more room that was in my previous house. But that old house, it was good to us for a good 10 years. So it wasn't easy parting ways, but when you go from a very small house, a nice starter home, to a much more spacious house, it is greatly appreciated, especially when you have two kids. So the basement here, it's very spacious. I like it a lot. The wall right here is finished. Obviously, the rest is all poured foundation. So the first step is going to be to get drywall around the rest of the basement and then get a drop ceiling in, and then I can begin my quest to create the perfect man cave. So it'll be a slow process. We got a couple other things we want to do. I mean, there's just so much more space than what we're accustomed to. So, but the basement, this will be my spot, and I'm really excited to make it my own. So really, really happy to be finally settled in. We still got a couple items we need to bring over, but for the most part, we're squared away.
Sweet.
So, obviously, I haven't been playing anything the past couple of weeks. But how about you guys? Boyce, what have you been playing this week, man?
I basically played one thing this week, and that was Megaton Rainfall on the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight. Outside of that, I really haven't had a chance to play anything. I briefly dabbled with Gran Turismo. I only got to play that for a few minutes though before I had to step away and do something else. So I'm trying to get some time in with Gran Turismo. The driving feels really good in that game, so I do want to spend some more time with it. But Megaton Rainfall, played it on the Spotlight. Didn't really know what to expect going into that. It sounded like a game that was right up my alley. You're some type of like super powered being. You're trying to defend a city from attacking aliens and whatnot. Mm-hmm. So it always looked really cool. Sounded like something that I get into. And then playing it, I actually really had a lot of fun with it. I played it in just regular controller TV mode when we did the Indie Spotlight, and it's very fast paced, very fluid. It was fun to fly around, and there's a nice little progression loop as you gain new powers and unlock new abilities as you go through these different stages. I do want to check this game out in VR though. It's a little bit unwieldy to control the character. Flight in a game is difficult when it comes to humans or human-like creatures in a 3D space.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever played a game that anybody got it exactly right. The Lego games are really fun to fly around in those, so they do a good job with that. But then when you add in the added element of first person, it's difficult to create a control scheme where flight just feels as tight and as fluid as you would want it to. So it's a little unwieldy to get in there and fly around and get to where you want to go and position yourself and attack the different aliens. Because the thing about this game is if you miss your shot, you hit buildings nearby or you hit pedestrians nearby, and that builds up this meter that goes up along the side of your screen, which is basically your life bar. You're kind of like this invincible godlike dude who's just trying to defend the city from aliens. And if you experience too many casualties over the course of a mission, that's when the mission ends. So there's not really anything the aliens can do to you per se. They can't really harm you because of the type of powerful entity that you are. But if they harm everything else around you, that's when you're in trouble. So it's an interesting mechanic and interesting way to approach that problem of an all-powerful superpower being. Like, how do you make that where there's some type of a conflict for you to try to get past? So I thought that was a really novel idea. That's maybe something they could apply to a Superman game when somebody eventually tries that one day. Hopefully, fingers crossed. But yeah, it's really fun to zip around and attack those aliens. And I said before, it almost feels like a post-mortem on Man of Steel. You just like these aliens are attacking the city. You're this superpowered dude, and that movie Superman just really was just threw caution to the wind. Metropolis was a goddamn apocalypse zone by the time that movie was over. So who knows how many thousands of people died at the end of that movie just with the careless battling that was going on. So I almost feel like there's a little bit of a ribbing going on with the concept behind this game. So I like that. But I do want to get in and experience this in VR, and I wonder if that extra dimension of being in the headset, and I'm curious how it controls in there. I wonder if it's going to be more tight and more more wieldy as you're in the headset, because you can basically take one of the sticks and assign it to it. Basically, the headset takes the place of that, because you can look around and decide where you're going to go. So I tried my damnedest to get into VR this week. I really wanted to play that in VR as well as Gran Turismo. So I wanted, because I hear the VR in that game is really slick. So I wanted to get in and experience that. Just haven't had a chance to yet. But hopefully before the next podcast, I'm going to pull the headset out, get it, be able to spend a few minutes with those two games at the very least, and get some VR time within those. But yeah, but I was impressed with Megaton Rainfall, man. It was more fun than I thought it was going to be. And yeah, for a superhero fan, I dug it.
No, that's good to hear. And I watched the stream, and I actually thought it looked really, really cool. And that's the first thing I thought. I was like, man, I want to play this in VR.
Yeah.
And for $14.99, I ended up picking it up. I haven't played it yet.
Great price on that.
Yeah, so I'm going to try it in VR as well. Now, do you know, does that have move functionality?
I feel like it has to. It would work so perfectly with the move controllers, because you're aiming and firing the blast out of your hands.
Right.
So I just feel like it has to, but I don't know for sure.
I feel, yeah, that's the first thing I was thinking. I was like, man, I hope this thing has move support, because I feel like that one-to-one with it with your hands and aiming and whatnot would be perfect. So I'm looking to jump into that. That's one thing I'm actually excited about this house is my basement at my other house. The ceilings weren't very tall, so I couldn't really stand up and do VR in a more spacious area. I can do that here, so I'm really, really excited to really get into VR a little bit more with a little bit more room around me. So, especially with the taller ceilings, that's going to be perfect. But no, that game looked really, really fun. It looked like it ran pretty smooth too. Yeah,
it was very smooth, very fast paced. So that's when I was playing. I was like, man, in the headset when you're flying around, like this has to feel pretty cool. And the sense of scale is there. So you're like in this big city, and these giant alien ships are like attacking this city, and you're shooting these like nuke blasts out of your hands at these things. So I gotta imagine that thing's pretty cool in VR, man. I definitely got to get in there and experience that. But yeah, it's very fast paced. So I can just imagine how cool that feels.
Sweet. That's I'm really excited to check that out. Bender, how about you, man? What have you been playing?
A couple of things. I talked last week about Metroid Samus Returns. I beat it.
Yes.
I've finished it. I think it took me like 18 hours because I went and got 100% of all the items. Really, really good game. Liked it a lot. One thing I appreciate about it that I didn't mention last week is, in most Metroidvania games, when you've got these collectibles that you have to find and, stuff like that. And for most of them, it's like, you don't get the collectible until you have a certain power, and you have to come back later, and then once you have that power, you can go and get everything. This game had that too, but this game also, some of the collectibles, even if you have the power you need to collect it, there's still kind of some puzzly elements to collecting some of the things, which I thought was really interesting. I don't remember that being the case in any of the previous Metroid games. I don't remember there being any sort of puzzle solving type of elements to how you collect things, but that was something that was very unique in this game. So I thought that was really cool. Yeah, it was good. It was a good game, longer than I thought it would be, and it was really, really cool. The other thing I've been playing lately is South Park: The Fractured But Whole.
Yes. How is it?
I like it a lot so far. It's really good. Yeah. I think I've played for maybe 6 or 7 hours so far, and yeah, it's just as funny as the first one. I like the combat. I like the way they've updated the combat. It's not just simple turn-based RPG stuff. You know, they got that grid system, and you have to position your characters and stuff like that, and you can only attack within a certain range of spaces and stuff like that. There's moves that do knock back, to knock people back to a few spaces, or things like that. And there's area of effect attacks, and it's much deeper combat, and I like it a lot for that. I love the superhero theme. They make fun of a lot of different superhero stuff. All the characters are really funny, and everything. So yeah, it's really good so far. Seems it's even more rated M than the first one. It's like it's like Emmier than the first one. I don't know. But no, but it's funny though. It's got a lot of humor, and looking forward to getting more into it. But I'm really enjoying it so far. It's pretty good. But that's pretty much all I've been playing.
Yeah, South Park is one of my casualties from this month, but I'm definitely going to be looking at that on Black Friday and see if maybe I can snag it on sale for something. It's just kind of hard to fit it into the budget right now with so many games coming out. I just picked up Evil Within 2 last week. Didn't get to play it, so I feel like that was a wise purchase. And then we got a couple games coming out this week that I'm eyeing up. But, boys, let's get into these new releases, and arguably one of the biggest release weeks of the year. We've got some big heavyweights coming out this week. Let's hit these new releases, dude.
Yeah, this is it, man. This is the week that's been touted for a long time now as the big time new release week for gaming and just kind of pop culture in general, with the amount of stuff that's coming out this week. So let's hop into it. Want to hit on a few things that we didn't mention last week for the PS4. So first and foremost, Brawlhalla is in its 1.0 edition now. So this is a game I've been following for a little while, and Brent, I've been talking to you about us trying to get some type of a stream going on this at some point. But this is a fun game from what I played. I participated a little bit in the beta. It's a Smash Brothers type of a game, but obviously it's available outside of the Nintendo ecosystem. So that's what makes this really cool. The art style in this game is fantastic. It's a free to play game, so I would definitely love to get us all together at some point and do some Brawlhalla action, because I think it would be a lot of fun. Loki is out for Marvel Heroes Omega. It's funny, Bender, when this popped up, me, you, and Frankie were literally just talking about this. We were talking about hopping into Marvel Heroes Omega, and we were even talking about Loki. And funny thing enough, he showed up on Thursday, which is the day we were talking about, and he's available in a pack now, so you can pick that up. Hand of the Gods Smite Tactics has free access for PlayStation Plus members. I believe this is a paid early access thing as well if you want to get into that. This is obviously a card battler based on the Smite series. Then a bunch of Halloween events going on right now. So Elder Scrolls Online has the Witches Festival. For Honor has the Feast of the Otherworld event. Killing Floor 2 has the Halloween Horrors update. Nice. All that going on right now. Rocket League also has a Halloween event that's live right now until November 6th. So all kinds of Halloween events going on. There's one going on in Overwatch as well, which we've mentioned previously. So if you're in a Halloween mood, jump into your favorite game. There's probably something going on in there. Lawbreakers dropped its All-Stars update, All-Star update, excuse me. So definitely get in there and check out that if you've been a fan of that game. Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite, like we mentioned, Black Panther, Sigma, and Monster Hunter finally arrived last week. 18 premium costumes available as well. There's a new patch for the game that you can check out. I believe the patch notes are on Capcom's website, so Capcom Unity. Let's go on there, check that out. Some adjustments have been made for certain characters. So these characters look sweet. Black Panther looks like an absolute beast. I definitely want to get in there and play some matches with him, but I know a lot of people in the Marvel community have been really, really awaiting Black Panther. So I do want to get in there and check out some matches with him in there. Arcade Archives Neo Geo Robo Army is available now. Professional Farmer American Dream, Battleborn's final update, RIP. So got new taunts, new skins, different character balances, UI updates, whole bunch of stuff in there. So if you are a Battleborn fan, hop on in there, check out the final update for the game. And the 88 Heroes got its Hate Mode Activate DLC. So check that out if you are into that game. All right, let's get into the big dogs this week now, guys. So first off, for the PS4 and the Xbox One, Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus hits this Friday, October 27th. So obviously, the first Wolfenstein was a huge deal. Kind of took the video game world by surprise, if I do say so myself. Mm-hmm. They Machine Games came in through Bethesda and created this, and really they kind of set the tone for Bethesda for this generation with the New Order. But they came in and they made this narrative-based first-person adventure game that was their first-person shooter game that was lengthy, had a very long campaign, had a really in-depth story, and it's a far call from what Wolfenstein started out as, back on the PC. So they took this property, they really made it their own, made something really unique that a lot of people really got into. I personally have still not played the New Order. I know that's a big blemish on my record. Do need to rectify that at some point. But a lot of people are anticipating the new Colossus. Brent, you are one of them. This game looks absolutely gorgeous in motion. It's a 60 frames, just monster, just a stunner of a game, and just watching it in motion. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about the new Colossus, man?
I'm hyped, dude. Like you mentioned, Machine Games took a big chance with the New Order when that first came up, because they said, to hell with multiplayer, even though this is a first-person shooter, and usually multiplayer goes hand-in-hand with first-person shooters. And they took a genre or a game, the Wolfenstein games, which weren't terribly deep and didn't feature any real depth in terms of its characters, including BJ Blazkowicz. But here we are with Machine Games and New Order, and they add some depth to a character that is normally one-dimensional, add some emotion to the story, added a very intriguing story, and they scored big with it. It reviewed very well. It was a hot seller, and I hope Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus sees that same success, simply because of everything that's going on in the industry right now with games as a service and what happened to Star Wars. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. When the New Order came out, there was this whole new focus on single-player games. I mean, everyone was like, oh, man, single-player games, this is where it's at. You don't have to have multiplayer. And as strong as that was, I don't feel like that is really carried on as long as I would have liked. I feel like that's kind of lost its luster. And I think Wolfenstein 2: The New Colossus is here to say, hey, look, no, single-player games are still very much important. They're still a very big part in the video game industry and in terms of gamers. So I'm hyped to get back into this, man. I really hope Machine Games is able to build on what made the first one so good, and I hope we have another excellent story, and I'm sure the gameplay will be there. I mean, we've seen the gameplay trailers. The game looks awesome. It looks super bloody, lots of action, but again, hopefully there'll be a nice story to complement it.
Yeah, and, you mentioned this, and we'll be discussing this in depth a little bit later on the show, but I think part of the thing for the New Order was that it just was where it came out. It came out early in the generation. It was kind of one of the first big shooter games, I think, that was made specifically for, even though it came out on the PS3 as well and the 360. It was kind of billed as a next gen game. So I think a lot of people were just interested to get into it just based off that. It had a lot of positive word of mouth and buzz from it as well. So I think it was kind of a perfect storm around that game at the time that led to it having the success that it did. And I don't know how successful this was from a commercial standpoint. Obviously, it was enough to greenlight a sequel. Mm-hmm. I don't know if this was I don't know what the final numbers were for this game, but Bethesda thought enough of it to make a sequel. So, like you said, man, hopefully this pans out well for those guys. We'll see how it goes. But, I mean, they couldn't have picked a more crowded Friday to come out on. So, and right alongside of it this Friday, by the way, Frankie, very excited for the new Colossus, which leads me to this next game. Another game that Frankie's very excited about in his wheelhouse is Assassin's Creed Origins. Also, like I mentioned, releasing on Friday. So, I I don't know about you, Brent, but it feels a little strange that that this game's coming out already. It almost feels like it kind of snuck up on us. I know it's a Ubisoft game. It's been talked about for a while, but I don't know. I just haven't felt the same like build up for this game as I have it with previous Assassin's Creeds. Maybe that's just because they took a year off. I don't know.
Mhm.
But yeah, I love the Egyptian setting that they're taking with this game. Don't know how much that's going to change the actual way this game plays, but from what we've seen, they look to be taking some cues from things like The Witcher, or in terms of how they do their open world kind of stuff. So it looks like there could be some big time changes to the Assassin's Creed formula with this game. Where are you at with Origins though, man? Is this one you're interested in at all?
I've always appreciated the Assassin's Creed games, and I am interested in Origins. But it's that time of year where you kind of got to pick and choose, which games you're going to play and which games you're going to stick with. And I know Frankie's going to be picking up Assassin's Creed Origins. We're actually going to have a dual stream going Friday night. I'll be streaming the new Colossus on YouTube. Frankie will be streaming Assassin's Creed Origins to our Twitch channel. So we'll have both of these games up on streams that you'll be able to check out on our YouTube channel, Short Pause Gaming, as well as on Twitch, Short Pause Gaming. But Origins is interesting to me. I wonder if it's just also because it's the fall. It's easy for certain games to get kind of lost in the mix of everything. In terms of like its marketing and whatnot. But I also kind of wonder if because they took that year off, people are kind of like. They're hoping. There's a lot of hope for Assassin's Creed Origins, but I think, like you said, since they're taking some new steps with this game, I think everyone's kind of waiting to see, how is this going to pan out? Are they going to tweak it too much? Are they going to make the changes that people have been asking for? I think everyone's kind of curious to see what Assassin's Creed Origins is going to do to the Assassin's Creed franchise.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and like I alluded to, some of the videos we've seen for this game have looked really, really good.
Oh yeah.
So we've seen some great combat sequences. We've seen, like I said, the camera pan out and look at one of these maps and all the different points of interest that are on there that they're going to be available to you. It's a very interesting setting for an Assassin's Creed game. So there's a lot of stuff going for this game, and a lot of stuff that at the end of the day could be a big time deal for this game when it's all said and done. So very, very intrigued to see how this one turns out. Bender, I know you don't have a lot of experience with the Assassin's Creed franchise. Have you thought about jumping into it at all? Is Origins maybe a starting point for you, or is this one not on your radar?
I have thought about it. Frankie seems to really like that series, and it's always one I've had a kind of peripheral interest in. So I might have to check it out at some point. I don't know. I'm definitely not going to be checking it out on 27th. You guys know what I'll be playing.
Oh, I know what you're playing.
Yeah,
Wolfenstein 2, baby. Can't wait for that stream.
Oh man, I thought it was SingStar Celebration. Huh?
Could be that as well. It's a Bender surprise.
No, but maybe at some point down the line, I might go back and check out Origins.
Definitely. Yeah, I've always liked the Assassin's Creed series as well. It's just this series has just escaped me, man. I played it early on in its life, and then I just could not keep up with the releases every year. So this series has gotten away from me, and I know obviously with the title like Origins, it seems like as good a starting point as any to jump back into the game. I don't know how much of the present day stuff is still a part of the Assassin's Creed story. I don't really know how that's kind of come along over the years. But I do have some interest in this game. But like you guys, I just don't know that that's going to happen anytime soon. So I'm going to be able to jump into this. But we will keep our eyes on that on this very busy Friday, October 27th. So moving on from there, speaking of doubleheaders, we're going to have a doubleheader indie spotlight this week. And it's going to be The Mummy Demastered as well as Slayaway Camp Butcher's Cut. So I was talking to Frankie, and he's like, hey, man, let's do a doubleheader for the indie spotlight this week. Whatever game you don't play, I'll play the other one because I'm interested in both of them. I said, all right, cool. I'm interested in both of them too. So don't know what the order is going to be or who's going to play what, but The Mummy Demastered is a 2D side scroller from Way Forward, if I'm not mistaken. So it looks like a really cool game. Always love the games that those guys make. And the Slayaway Camp Butcher's Cut, we mentioned this on a previous podcast. It's like a puzzle game based around slasher films.
Yes.
So, it's got a really pixel art style. It looks kind of goofy. But I really am intrigued by that one. So a couple of really cool looking indie games. We're going to feature them Tuesday night starting at 10 p.m. on our YouTube channel. So make sure you come on over, check out the Tuesday night indie spotlight. We'll have a double header for you guys this week. Frankie, you'll take the second half of that double header. So be on the lookout for that. On Wednesday this week, Air Memories of Old comes out. And I hadn't heard jack squat about this game until this week, but Frankie brought it up, put it on the radar, and he mentioned that this game has elements of or like a rhyme type of feel to it, and I agree with him. Just looking at it here, Bender, have you seen this one at all? This looks like one you might get into, man.
I have not seen it.
Yeah, so give Air, that's AER, a look. Memories of Old. It looks like an adventure game along the lines of something like a rhyme. So if that's your kind of game, definitely get in there and check that out. Knowledge is Power is a Tuesday release. Then another one I'm really interested in, guys, is Hidden Agenda. I think this game looks sweet. So obviously Supermassive, the guys behind Until Dawn. This is kind of their next game. This is part of the PlayLink series. So this is one of those things where you play with your phone, but there's an adventure game or like a story that's playing on the screen. You're making different decisions, and your decisions are trying to affect one way or another what your hidden agenda is or could be. Don't know exactly how it plays. I don't know if everybody has a hidden agenda or it's just one person that has a hidden agenda, but you're trying to influence the way the story outcome plays out in order for you to to hit your goal or whatever it may be. So I'm really intrigued by the way this sounds. Brent, is this something that we could get everybody together and do at some point? Is this something we can play online, or is this only a local co-op? I feel like this is an online thing as well.
I mean, I'm not sure what it is in terms of getting us all together to play this game. Not this fall, but possibly maybe into the winter sometime.
Yeah. Cool. So I'll go myself on that one. SingStar Celebration is another PlayLink game. So that'll be out this week. Obviously, SingStar, the singing game, spin-off franchise, it's been out for a long time. So if you're into that kind of karaoke type of game, check that out. That's You is getting a physical release this week, another PlayLink title. It's been free for PlayStation Plus for the last month or so. That will be coming to physical release for those of you who are collecting those kind of things. Knights of Azure 2, Bride of the New Moon is a Tuesday release. Just Dance 2018 coming to both PS4 and PS3. So get in there and get your dance on. Brent, I know you will be all over that. Yomawari, Midnight Shadows is a Tuesday release. Deer Hunter Reloaded will be out on Tuesday. Little Nightmares, the complete edition, also on Friday, October 27th. So this one will be at retail. So if you've been holding out for Little Nightmares, you can pick this up. Obviously, it's got the game and its DLC in the complete package at retail. Rapala Fishing Pro Series will be out on Tuesday. The Inner World, The Last Wind Monk. So the Inner World is that point-and-click adventure game, or like an animated adventure game that we saw earlier this year. I'm guessing this is some type of I guess it's a prequel for that game. So the Inner World just expanding right before our very eyes. There's a retail version as well, which includes the prequel as part of the bundle. So be on the lookout for that. Rugby 18 is a Tuesday release. Fort Defense North Menace. Fort Defense literally came out 2 weeks ago. It's already got some type of a second game or an expansion. Not sure exactly what this is. That'll be out Tuesday. Mahjong Royal Towers is a Wednesday release. Nightmare Boy is also out on Wednesday. Really intrigued by this one. 2D Metroidvania game. This one was another strong contender for the indie spotlight. But I'd like to see some more about that one. Not sure how to say this game, but Numantia. This is a turn-based strategy game that'll be out on Wednesday. We Sing Pop will be out on Tuesday, another singing game. The Wu Jing Battles expansion for Orcs Must Die Unchained is out this week. And I Expect You to Die, the First Class free DLC, is out this week as well. Let's get into PSVR really quick here. Fishing Master will be out on Tuesday, and on Wednesday, Stunt Kite Masters. Interesting sounding title.
Wow.
That'll be out on Wednesday for all you Stunt Kite fans out there. And then on Vita, Yomawari, Midnight Shadows will be out. So, what do you know about this game, Brent? I've heard a few things here and there by Yomawari.
Mm-hmm.
Is this like an adventure game, or?
I'm not too familiar. I mean, I'm not sure what it is. I do know, because is this the second one? This isn't is this a sequel?
I feel like it might be because I've heard this name before, and
Yeah,
I
I
don't know
think
if
this
it's
is a
just from this
sequel.
game.
And
Okay.
I think I actually thought about picking it up because I know a lot of people speak very highly of it.
Yeah.
I know Yomawari is a game that's been out on Vita before, and I do remember people speaking very highly of it. I'm curious to see what this one's about.
Yeah. So, according to the website here, Yomawari is a survival horror game in which two
Mm-hmm.
young girls explore a haunted town. After a fireworks show, the girls get separated. They must find each other in the darkness, but the town looks so different than it does during the day. So you switch between the two girls to advance the story. So you're constantly switching perspectives. So that's always an interesting mechanic. And then the only thing the girls can rely on is the flashlight they hold. If you explore, you might find something on the ground. So so there's some different spirits that are going around here. It's a side-scrolling / isometric game. So interesting looking title. It's probably gonna be a pretty cool one on the Vita. So I'll definitely keep that one on my radar. All right, let's get into the Xbox One now, fellas. It's what we missed last week. The obviously Marvel Heroes Omega got its Loki pack. Hand of the Gods Smite Tactics as paid early access on the Xbox One as well. And then the Halloween events, the Witches Festival for Elder Scrolls Online, Feast of the Otherworld for For Honor. Gigantic got its Season of Souls update. So another Halloweenish type of expansion for that game or update for that game. Arcade Archives Neo Geo Robo Armies on the platform. God of Light Remastered is out now for the Xbox One. Battleborn's final update is live on there. And Candleman got the Lost Light DLC, which is free. A game that you played, Brent, which I thought looked really cool.
Yeah, it is a pretty cool little game.
Yeah. So if you're at all interested in Candleman, make sure you look out for that. This week on the platform, of course, the two headliners, Wolfenstein 2 and Assassin's Creed Origins, like we talked about before, will be on there. The Mummy Demastered is going to be on Xbox One this week. On Wednesday, Air Memories of Old is on there. Slayaway Camp Butcher's Cut is a Monday, October 30th release on the Xbox One. So a little preview of the next release list. That's what we do for you here on the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. We prognosticate into the future. Nightmare Boy is a Wednesday release. Numantia, however the hell you say this game. That's a Wednesday release on Xbox. We Sing Pop and Just Dance 2018 are coming on Tuesday. Just Dance will also be on the 360. The Inner World, The Last Wind Monk will be available both digitally and at retail. Rugby 18, Rapala Fishing Pro Series, Deer Hunter Reloaded, Little Nightmares Complete Edition is a Friday release at retail, and a couple of more Halloween things. Killing Floor 2's Halloween Horrors update is available now, alongside the Gears of War October update. All right, let's get into Nintendo now. That's what we missed last week. Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle DLC 1, the Ultra Challenge Pack, is available now. Completely forgot that was coming out last week. And then Fire Emblem Warriors, the Season Pass, available now. There's a free Japanese voiceover pack that's available for you to download now as well. And of course, Neo Geo Arcade Archives Robo Army, available on the Switch right now. All right, fellas, this brings us to the big one. So the biggest game of this week, inarguably, the biggest game of this week is Super Mario Odyssey. So it's coming out this Friday, right alongside Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein. Just an absolutely insane release day for video game. But Super Mario Odyssey, it's been a long time coming to get a traditional 3D Super Mario game back in our hands once again. Obviously, it's coming to the Switch, and it looks fantastic. There's demos up. I was at Best Buy today. I was watching somebody play the demo as I was walking past the gaming section. Game looks awesome. So this is one of the games that I'm definitely picking up this fall. I will be picking this up on Friday. I will be attempting to play it whenever I get a chance. But I'm really excited for Mario. Far and away, Mario is my favorite Nintendo franchise. So as great as Zelda and Metroid and Donkey Kong Country and all these franchises are, they all pale when it comes to Mario. So there's never been a poor mainline Mario game, and I don't expect that to change with Super Mario Odyssey. Every time this guy comes out is a quality, just top tier game. So I expect Super Mario Odyssey to be no different. Bender, Mario is almost upon us once again. He'll be here on Friday. How are you feeling, bud?
I'm pretty excited. Yeah, because Mario's finally returning to the Mario 64 and Sunshine type of style of game with, where you're collecting things and exploring different worlds, and it has all his familiar moves and everything. And from what I hear, those power moons that you collect, there's like a ton of them to collect. They said that, I think they implied that it's almost as many as there were Korok seeds in Zelda, which is insane to think about. They said it's not as many Korok seeds, but it's close. So I don't know how many that is, but man, that's crazy to think about.
There were 900 Korok seeds, so that's geez.
Yeah, so yeah, sounds like it's gonna keep us busy for a long time. I'm sure there's gonna be a lot of them that are hard to find, just lots of secrets to discover. That capture mechanic seems like it's gonna be really cool. And seems like it's gonna lend to a lot of different styles of gameplay and stuff like that. So looks super fun to everything I've seen of it. I don't know if you guys watched any of the Nintendo World Championship, but they had a couple of levels of Mario Odyssey that they played for the finals of that competition, and it just looks like a sweet game just overall. So I can't wait to play it. That's what I'm going to be playing for a long time to come, I'm sure, for the rest until Xenoblade comes out. I'm sure I'm going to be playing nothing but Mario. But I'm really excited to play it. Can't wait.
Yeah, it's interesting too that you mentioned that capture mechanic, Bender, and that's like a whole nother ball game when it comes to like designing a game. So they have to literally take into account all of these different things you can possess and how that factors into puzzle solving and doesn't like break the game in terms of the flow from one point to the next. So so that's going to be really interesting to see that in motion and see that in action and see how that all works. Obviously, if anybody can do it, it's Nintendo and their Mario team. So I have no doubt that they will successfully translate that into a game mechanic that works. Brent, how you feeling about Odyssey, buddy? So for me, I don't plan to play this game in handheld mode. Like this one will be on the TV, and I'll be sitting down and playing it with the Pro controller, because that's where I've been looking forward to experience the game. But what are you feeling about Odyssey, man?
First of all, Mr. Boyce, you just got done saying that Mario is your favorite character, and this a ways back. You said this was the game you're buying a Switch for. So I believe that puts the nail in the coffin, and that's the kiss of death. And I can't wait to hear week after week every excuse of why that game has not been taken out of its package. So should be a good time for the next couple of episodes. Oh, it's going to happen. Trust me. And you know what? Because I know you're not going to play it, I actually went back on my word. I used my Best Buy gift card or my Best Buy reward certificate to knock off $15 and use the Gamer Club Unlocked. I ordered myself a copy of this game just so I could say I'm not playing it either. So no, I'm
congratulations.
No, I mean, from what I've seen in this game and from what people have been saying on Twitter that have been getting their hands on the demo, it sounds like this game's awesome, and it sounds like it's going to be the next great Mario game. And unlike you, if I am going to play this game, it will be in handheld mode. It will be when I'm away from home. And that's fine. That's what I bought the Switch for. My Switch is to play on the go, is to play when I'm not at home or when I'm upstairs with the kids for a little bit. So I will at some point play this game this week. And like I said, it'll be just when I'm away from home or when I'm upstairs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I have no doubt it's going to be cool to take a game like this on the go with you on the handheld. But this one, I want to play with the Pro controller. Like I want to sit down and I want to sit down in front of my TV and I want to spend some time with Mario and I want to play this game. So, So needless to say, very, very high expectations for Super Mario Odyssey. And, when it comes down to it, Nintendo always hits those expectations. Every time a Mario game comes out, there's gigantic expectations around it. He's been a staple of the video game industry for 30 plus years. Like I said, every single one of his mainline games is a classic. So I don't expect Mario Odyssey to be any different when all is said and done. There's a trio of amiibos coming out here as well. What are these? The wedding amiibos, Bender? Mm-hmm. So I mean, if that's your thing, go buy that crap. But Super Mario Odyssey this Friday alongside Assassin's Creed and Wolfenstein. What a day, man. What a day for gaming. All right, let's get on with the rest of the Switch releases. So The Mummy Demastered will be on the Switch this week as well. Zombie Gold Rush is a Thursday release. Poi Explorer Edition. Night Terrors. It will be out on the Switch this week. This is an interesting looking title. Like an 8-bit action game. This is The Police is on there. A game that's been on other platforms. Just Dance 2018 coming over to the Switch. Knights of Azure 2 Bride of the New Moon will be on the platform this week. Violet is a Thursday release. Splasher, awesome game. That'll be out Thursday, October 26th. So you can see what Splatoon would look like if it were to mash with Meat Boy and become a 2D platforming game. Time Recoil, another game we played on the Indie Spotlight. A very cool game. That's a Thursday release. Moon Hunters Eternal Echoes is a Thursday release. This is that game that focuses on like the personality tests in like an RPG setting. This one's been out on several platforms. Always was a really interesting looking title. It's one I would like to play at some point. So I'll do it for the Switch. As far as the Wii U, what we missed last week, nothing. Yay us. And Just Dance 2018 coming over to the Wii U. And also, how about this, the Wii?
Wow.
So every year, I'm pretty sure Just Dance is the only game that comes out for the Wii. And it just it keeps coming out. I think it actually sells pretty well on the Wii still. So it's a interesting story. But yeah, Just Dance 2018 will be on the Wii, as it has for every year for the last however many years Just Dance has been around. So, on the 3DS, what we missed last week, Galaxy Blaster Code Red is a $1.49 eShop gem that will only function on the new 3DS family of consoles because it's such a powerhouse. I mean, it's a gaming powerhouse. It needs that extra processing power. There's a lot that goes into that $1.49. So, get your Galaxy Blaster Code Red now. Fire Emblem Warrior Season Pass is available for the 3DS as well. This week, one game we know of so far, and that's Warcle Worlds. That's Thursday release. So that'll do it for Nintendo, and we need to give a special shout out to Destiny 2 on the PC. So that'll be out this week. Was it Tuesday? I think this week.
Tuesday
comes out.
Tuesday. At, I believe it's 1 p.m. Eastern time is when the game will go live.
Yep. So if you've been holding out for Destiny 2 on the PC, your wish will be granted. You'll have access to that now. I believe the Nightfalls will be ready when the game launches. I think the raid launches like in a week or so. There's a whole chart on Bungie's website, so you can go in there and check out when the different things are coming to PC. But I think it'll launch with the Nightfall, and then we'll get the raid on there a week later, and then everything else will sync up with the console releases from here on out with the PC. So
awesome.
That's going to do it for the new releases, Brent.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boyce. A lot of great games coming out this week. Arguably the biggest week of the year. So as of right now, who knows what's to lie ahead? But yeah, lots of great stuff this week.
I mean, think about this, man. We have a week this week that Wolfenstein, Assassin's Creed, and Mario all launch on the same day, and we had a week earlier this year where Horizon and Zelda came out at the same time as well. So there's been some just jam-packed weeks this year with releases.
Yeah, we're really heading to the gauntlet of the fall rush now. I mean, we're hitting the stride. This is like the next 3 weeks are just the biggest titles of the year. So hang on, folks. It's going to be busy and it's going to be expensive. Yahoo! All right, let's hop into the news, and obviously the big news of the week. I mean, this was a bombshell. This was a big one. EA is shutting down Visceral Games, and it is changing up the Star Wars project that they were working on. This was big time news. First, let's get to the EA statement that explains what's going on. This was posted by Patrick Soderlund, and here's what he had to say. Our industry is evolving faster and more dramatically than ever before. The games we want to play and spend time with, the experiences we want to have in those games, and the way we play, all those things are continually changing. So is the way the games are made. In this fast-moving space, we're always focused on creating experiences that our players want to play, and today that means we're making a significant change with one of our upcoming titles. Our Visceral Studio has been developing an action-adventure title set in the Star Wars universe. In its current form, it was shaping up to be a story-based linear adventure game. Throughout the development process, we had been testing the game concept with players, listening to their feedback about what and how they want to play, and closely tracking fundamental shifts in the marketplace. It has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design. We will maintain the stunning visuals, authenticity in the Star Wars universe, and focus on bringing a Star Wars story to life. Importantly, we are shifting the game to be a broader experience that allows for more variety and player agency, leaning into the capabilities of our Frostbite engine and reimagining central elements of the game to give players a Star Wars adventure of greater depth and breadth to explore. This move leads to a few other changes. A development team from our EA Worldwide Studios will take over development of this game, led by a team from EA Vancouver that has already been working on the project. Our Visceral Studio will be ramping down and closing, and we're in the midst of shifting as many of the team as possible to other projects and teams at EA. Lastly, we had originally expected this launched late in our fiscal year 2019. We're now looking at a new time frame that we will announce in the future. Bringing Star Wars games to life for every passionate fan out there is what drives us as creators. It's what has inspired us to deliver the massive new Star Wars Battlefront 2 experience launching in just a few weeks. It fuels our live service in Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes. Making games in the extraordinary Star Wars universe is truly a dream of so many of us at EA, and we have so many experiences to come for players on every platform. We want to take the time to get each game right, to make it unique, and to make it amazing. We look forward to answering more of your questions and sharing more of our plans and timeline for the Star Wars experience in the months to come. That's the end of the statement there. A couple things that stood out to me in this statement is when they're talking about what they want from the Star Wars game. And here's the part of the story. It says, it has become clear that to deliver an experience that players will want to come back to and enjoy for a long time to come, we need to pivot the design. Now, this was originally supposed to be a linear action-adventure story, which means, in my mind, and I think to you guys as well, you play through it one time, and you've experienced everything the game has to offer. To make a game something that you want to come back to over and over and over again, that sounds a lot different than a single-player experience. Now, obviously, this was shocking news. We lost one of the best developers out there, in my opinion. I think Visceral Games is a fantastic developer. The Dead Space series was absolutely brilliant. But, Boyce, I want to come to you first. I want to get your thoughts on this development and what you think this means for the Star Wars project that a lot of us here at Short Pause were really, really excited about.
Yeah, man, this was shocking news. I mean, I suppose it shouldn't be in this day and time, but this was shocking news to me when I saw this come through the wire. Like, not only the fact that this game is now in trouble, but the fact that they're closing Visceral Studios, who's been a developer for 17 plus years. Obviously, they did the Dead Space series, and then they've been kind of they kind of lost their way there for a little bit almost. They were they did a Battlefield spin-off game, which always seemed like a weird thing for them to get into. Mm-hmm. But then it felt like they were maybe finding their feet again with this big time single player Star Wars game set in the Star Wars universe with Amy Hennig at the helm. So it seemed like they were getting back on track. But yeah, man, it was incredibly disappointing to see this news come. I was obviously really excited for this game to come out, and it sucks that this happened. It sucks that Visceral has closed down, and obviously we wish all those guys and gals the best. So I know that they're going to be dispersed throughout EA, and they're going to keep as many of them as they can because there's a lot of talented folks over there. But they're not going to be able to keep everybody. There will be people that don't have a job because of this, and it was nice to see the development community reaching out to all of them. So I saw tons of posts, people like, "Hey, we're hiring Visceral, send in your resumes here. Let's talk." That kind of stuff was going on all over the industry. So it's good to see that kind of stuff. It's good to see the brotherhood that exists throughout the development community kind of rearing its head there in terms of Visceral. But yeah, just incredibly disappointing, Brent, that this is how it's come to pass. And I will say this though, I refuse to believe that EA shut this game down just because it was a single player game. I refuse to believe that Visceral, if they were making some kick-ass Star Wars game that was coming along great, that EA was just gonna walk in and be like, all right, guys, we're gonna shut this down because this doesn't have multiplayer. Like I refuse to believe that. If this game was coming along the way they wanted it to come along, and it was at a point that they expected it to be at, like there's no doubt in my mind that EA would have went through with this. EA has tons of single player games in their stable. They have another single player Star Wars game being developed as we speak from Stig's team. So the reality is, man, when you think back to this, we haven't seen anything from this game. This game's been in development for a long time. The best we've seen is a 2-second snippet from a wireframe EA documentary thing at one of their press conferences. So when it comes down to it, I feel like at the end of the day, man, video games are a business. As much as we want to romanticize the notion of creating art and and obviously that's a big part of video games, but at the end of the day, man, this is a business. If EA is pouring millions and millions and millions of dollars into this project and it's not doing what they expect it to do, they've got to pull the plug on it or pivot or do something like they did. It's business, man. And I just like I said, there's no way that this game was coming along swimmingly for EA to pull the plug like this and to close the studio. So it's unfortunate, man. But I just think this was a business decision, and that's that.
And we'll talk a little bit about why it may not have been because it was a single player experience. I mean, and it's very strange. It's hard to think that it's not because of that. Because I mean, if you look at the talent involved, you had Visceral Games, obviously an established developer that has had a lot of success in the past. You had Amy Hennig in there writing the story, and I mean, we all know Amy Hennig's accomplishments. So I mean, you have talent on all sides here. And for this game to just essentially, I mean, they say it's being reworked or it's another studio is working on the project, but this will not be the same game that we were told a couple years back. It's not going to be anything near the same game. I don't even know if it'll be the same story. Yeah. I mean, from what it sounds like, it's not going to be. But Benner, I want to come to you now. Obviously, I know you were really excited for this game. You're a big fan of Amy Hennig. Where did this hit you, dude?
It hit me right in the feels. It's very disappointing. I was extremely let down by this because I was so excited about this game, just to know that Amy Hennig was leading this project, and she's crafted some of the greatest single player video game experiences I've ever played. And I just to think about a Star Wars game that was a cool single player experience with like a great story and awesome action and all that stuff. I was, my dreams were, my mind was running with all the possibilities. So to learn that that's not going to happen now, it's very disappointing. And I don't know. I don't really know what to think about it, but like Ben said, it's very possible that the game wasn't coming along as great as we thought it was. We did only see like a 5-second clip at E3 of like a guy walking through the streets, and that's all we've seen of it in the last like 3 years or something. So yeah, maybe it just wasn't coming together, and I guess that's understandable. And also they're probably looking at some of the trends with gaming right now and seeing all these single player games that are like a games as a service that are having a long tail that are going to keep making money for a long time. Like if you play an Uncharted game or a game like that, you're going to be playing for 10 or 12 hours, then you're done. You move on to something else. But if it's a game more like a Destiny or something like that it's going to be something that's going to have a continuous stream of content and stuff like that, then that's something that's going to keep you coming back. So it could end up being something that's really cool. So I guess we'll have to wait and see. It doesn't sound like it's coming out anytime soon, but whatever it turns out to be, I guess we'll have to wait, and hopefully it'll turn out to be something cool in the end. But hopefully this will be for the best. But still, it's still disappointing.
And you guys talk about, you guys make some good points. And the one thing that's interesting, Ben, is you mentioned that you refuse to believe that this is because it was a single player experience, and that very well, like I said, there's some stuff that we'll talk about in a second that indicates maybe that's not the case. But it makes me wonder though if that was somewhat of a play, considering what we hear from Jason Schreier, we'll talk about in a moment. Is if you look at the Star Wars games that EA has, you've got Battlefront, which is like your Battlefield with Star Wars involved, and you got the single player experience, and you've got that there. And then obviously what Stig's team is working on, that's something that's going to be a story driven game. So I mean, you've got the Battlefront with its multiplayer, and you've got the single player that's going to be that we don't know how good that'll be. You know, Stig's working on that. So you've got like different types of Star Wars games, and I can't help but wonder if EA is sitting back and saying, hey, look, you know, people are talking about this is what they want from their games, and obviously Destiny has inspired a lot of people. Maybe EA is looking and say, hey, look, let's try a Star Wars game in the vein of like Destiny or in being inspired by Anthem, you know, because that Star Wars is a big universe. There's a lot to explore there, and I can't help but wonder if they're trying to find something for everybody. You know, you've got the Battlefront, you've got whatever Stig's working on. Hey, let's see if maybe we can make something like a Destiny type of game with Star Wars. But again, this is just my thoughts on it, looking at from what EA might want to try to do in terms of reaching a broader audience of people with different types of Star Wars games. That was my only take from that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it makes sense, man. It's just like, it's like I said, dude, even, you know, it hurts to see something like this get canceled or pivoted or whatever language that EA wants to use. For all intents and purposes, the Visceral game that was being created has been canceled. All right, this game is no more. And when this game does eventually resurface, it's not going to look like whatever that game was going to be. I think that much we can glean from the statement. So it sucks when something like this happens, or when like Scalebound gets canceled, or when Fable Legends gets canceled. You know, it sucks to see this kind of stuff happen. But at the end of the day, man, there's people that are leading these studios that you would assume know what makes a good video game. You know, if you got Phil Spencer, Patrick Soderlund, these are guys that have been in the business for a very long time. So if they look at a project and they're like, man, this is just not really cutting it, and they've already poured millions and millions and years of millions of dollars and years of development into these projects, I just refuse to believe that they would just pull the plug on these things just because it was a single player game, or just because it didn't have this. That's something where if it was such an amazing single player game, if they can find a way to add a multiplayer element to it, or they can find a way to add, like we see with Shadow of War, you can add a loot box or something, a microtransaction, something. They can add something to the game to kind of beef it up. So I just think at the end of the day, for whatever reason, this game was just not coming together the way they expected it to, and it's just a shame, man.
We actually heard a couple of statements from Visceral developers. First up, we have Zach Mumbach. I'm not particularly sure what his position was, other than he was a developer with Visceral. This is what he had to say on Twitter. I appreciate all the support and words of encouragement I've been receiving in the last few days. It means a lot. My wife and I had our second child on Sunday, and then Visceral was closed on Tuesday, so it's still a lot to take in right now. I'm kind of walking around in a daze. I'm incredibly sad for the cancellation of the amazing game we were making, the closure of the studio where I've spent the majority of my adult life working, and the knowledge that I won't get to work with the people on this team anymore. Visceral meant a lot to me. It's the only home I've ever known, and there's just no way around it. This is heartbreaking. I'm incredibly lucky and honored to have had the opportunity to work with the amazing, talented people who made Visceral what it was. Thank you to all the people who supported our studio and played our games over the years. Soon I'll figure out what's next, but for now, I'm going to hang out with my new baby, play some video games, and reflect on the great times over the last 17 years. We also heard from Todd Stashwick, who was co-writing the story with Amy Hennig, and he just sent out a tweet. For the record, it was beautiful, amazing, fun, and funny. The ride for me was singular, talented, passionate folks making something great. So Todd, he chimed in. But now the interesting things about this is Jason Schreier, which with Kotaku, who broke this story. Jason Schreier's got a lot of connections, and I know a lot of people. There's a lot of people that don't agree with Kotaku a lot. There's a lot of people that like to complain about Kotaku, but I do respect the way they do their work. I respect the way they dig, and they don't just make stuff up on the fly. They try to formulate as cohesive an opinion or a story as they possibly can with what they can get. But here's what Jason Schreier had to say on Twitter after the news broke, and he wanted to clarify a couple things. But Jason Schreier said this, quote, I feel like I should clarify that despite today's hot takes, Visceral's game was not canned because it was a single-player experience from what I've heard. I had been hearing rumors for months now that Visceral's Star Wars game was in trouble. Now it's essentially canceled. And when asked about Amy Hennig, an EA spokesperson told him, "We're in discussions with Amy about her next move." So, like I said, we hear the stuff that it's they're pivoting because they're trying to make a more broad experience. Visceral's being closed, and now we have this information that this game might have been a complete mess. So, and again, that's the hardest part to believe, considering the talent that's involved. But look, nobody's perfect. None of these developers are perfect. Everyone's going to bump into, hit a speed bump, and this was just a really big speed bump because it was Star Wars. I'm sure there was a ton of money invested in this, and like you said, it's not an easy decision for the Patrick Soto owner, like you mentioned, Phil Spencer, to axe a game. But at some point, you just have to look at, cut your losses and accept it for what it is, and that's what's happening here. So whether or not this has something to do with pivoting to a games as a service type of model, or if this game was just a total disaster in development, I guess we'll never really know, at least not right now. But the facts are this: Visceral Games is closing, and the Star Wars game that we were shown a couple years ago will not see the light of day. And I mean, and to further that point along, we know that for a fact because this game was slated for 2019, and now it's getting pushed back. You don't take 3 years to kick out a game you've already been working for a couple years on. This game is changing fundamentally.
It was slated for fiscal 2019, which is 2018.
Yeah.
So it was due to come on next year, and that's part of the thing that we were alluding to, Brent. It's like we've literally seen nothing from this game. We haven't seen a single thing from this game, and you know that EA wants to put this game out there. Like, this is a game they want to put on a pedestal. They want to we haven't even got a trailer, nothing,
right?
Not like a teaser trailer, nothing. The shot of the guy walking out in Mos Eisley or someplace that looked like that, like Bender mentioned earlier. That's literally all we've ever seen from this game, and we've let our minds wander. I know I certainly have, just thinking about what an Uncharted game would look like in the Star Wars universe. Like you can imagine some of those chase scenes, like Convoy, like that chapter in Uncharted 3 springs to mind. Like you can imagine that on like speeder bikes or something along those lines, and you just your mind starts racing of all the cool things that they could do with this type of Star Wars game. And yeah, it just it hurts, man. It's painful, especially because the same thing happened to 1313. Another game that I was excited for, and we actually saw gameplay of that game. That game looked like it was coming along great. That one never saw the light of day. Interesting fact too. Jason also mentions this, but LucasArts tried to save 1313 by pitching it to Visceral. So that's one of the interesting nuggets in all this. But Visceral actually wanted to do their own Star Wars game, so they ended up going in a separate direction, and now we don't have either one of those games. So. It's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, and we actually had an email this week regarding this topic. Our buddy Ken Kesak from Twitter, @KKesak, he wrote in asking this: with EA Visceral game being canceled, Agents of Mayhem studio closing, and Shadow of War loot box and single player, do you think we need to raise prices to keep narrative games? Games of services seem like that's where everyone is going and where the money is. As for me, I love these types of games, and I'm willing to fork over extra money to get these experiences. Thanks for asking my question, and keep up the good work. Well, Ken, thanks for writing in. And, we talk about, we hear all these stories about how expensive these games are getting these days. And for a studio to focus on a single-player experience without any kind of multiplayer, with any kind of like Destiny type of an end game where there's stuff to do continuously and it's constantly being updated, I'm sure it's a massive risk. And I don't know about you guys, but if they were to come out tomorrow and say, hey, look, video games are going up to $70, $80, if it meant that I was still going to get single-player experience, if it was going to help ease the cost of development, then I think we would just have to go with it. I mean, I would, because I'm a gamer, and at this point, gaming is so damn expensive, and it is what it is. These games are $60, and if you add $20 on, you're going to have an audience, a group of people who are going to be pissed about it. But anybody has any clue about how much these games cost, I think we're eventually going to get to that point where these prices are going to go up. I mean, these games are just flat out expensive to make. And like Ken said, I would definitely pay more if I knew that I would still be getting single-player experience. Don't get me wrong. I think games as a service, when done right, can be a really cool thing. I think those games are really, really good. But I do want single-player experiences. I want the Last of Us games. I want the Gears of War games. I want all these single-player experiences, these awesome games. What's your guys' thoughts on Ken's question? Bender.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening where game prices go up just because they're just being more and more expensive to make. I don't know if it's something that's going to be necessary to happen to keep narrative games. I kind of feel like narrative games aren't going anywhere. I mean, so if you look back at like just the past year, I mean, some of the most some of the highest selling games were like single player experiences. You think of Horizon Zero Dawn and Zelda, and stuff like that. So there's several games that are coming out that are still making lots of money and still being very successful single player experiences. So I think and I hope that those aren't going anywhere, but I still could see a price increase in video games across the board at some point in the near future, just because games are more expensive to make than they've ever been, and they're less expensive to price wise than they've ever been. So I could definitely see something like that happen regardless.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can't help but wonder. I mean, we know a lot of these games sell well. We know that they sell. We see the NPDs, and we see that these games are top-selling games. But the one thing that the developers never tell us is how much the actual game costs. So, I mean, you might see a game like, yeah, it sold 2 million copies. They still might not be making their money back, depending on how much that game costs. So, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, you can sit there and say, yeah, this game sold a lot, but we don't know exactly how much it made for that developer, if it really recouped all the costs. That's stuff that I would really like to hear more from developers and publishers, like, hey, this game cost X amount of money, and that'll give you an idea of just how well it really did. So, but Ben, your thoughts on Ken's question?
Yeah, Brent, this is the other part of this equation here, and this is a very complicated issue here with the single player games, and I'm not sure I entirely know how I feel about this, and I'm going to try and talk about this in a way where I'm not like rambling on and I'm just mentioning a bunch of different things. I'll try to make some type of sense here. But as far as Ken's question, I mean, I suppose it's possible that they could raise games, but I think the more probable outcome is that we see more of the like microtransaction kind of stuff in these games. Mm-hmm. I mean, that's an easy way for maybe easy way is not the best way to put it, but it's the path of least resistance for these developers to try and get extra money out of people who are purchasing these games. Because like you said, the scope of these games continues to rise. Development costs continue to go up. That's not going to change anytime soon. It's only going to keep rising. And, they've got to do something to combat that. So we need to think about things like when we see stuff like Shadow of War and there's a microtransaction in it that, mind you don't have to purchase. But when we see things like this in the game, we have to be careful about just denouncing them and just painting them as this evil thing that how dare they try and put a microtransaction in front of us. It's like these games are expensive, man, and if we want to keep playing these games, they have to figure out a way to make money on these things. So and to do that, they have to try out these new models and see how they work. So if they try the microtransaction thing and that doesn't work, then maybe we do see a price increase in the future. But I think we'll see that for all games. I don't know that they would single out single player games and just increase the price on those, because right now as it stands, when a multiplayer only game comes out and it's charged the same price as a single player game, like people are up in arms about that too. So
right.
So it's and it's when you read Patrick's statement, he mentions all the stuff about the games as service stuff in there. It's like you don't know if this is just simply he wants to use that as a scapegoat. It was like Jason mentioned, one of the guys actually asked him, it was like, well, why even put this statement out if it's not because it was a single player game, or it's not because they want to make this as a games of service. And he simply made the point that like look, man, like think about how it sounds to investors if you just come out and be like, yeah, this game's a shit show. We had to get rid of it. So it's like you got to save face when you're the head of a company. You have to put out some type of a statement. And so whether or not this games as a service thing was a scapegoat, or whether this is really the issue at hand, is something that I don't know if we're gonna know the answer to. And the other part of this, Brent, is just how these single player games have been going in recent years. We've talked about Bethesda over and over on this show. We talk about Dishonored and Prey and all these games that they're putting, even Doom to a certain extent. Like all these single player games that are coming out and they're just not making waves. They're not selling the way that they expect them to, and I'm not sure that that's because they were single player games. And I think the death of the single player game was very hyperbolic this past week when the story came out. I think that was greatly exaggerated. We are definitely going to continue to see single player games, at least from Sony and Nintendo. Like that's where their bread and butter is, in those games. And somebody made a really good point about this. It might have been on Twitter. I don't remember exactly, but the point was that with Sony and Nintendo, like their first party games, they need to sell systems. They don't necessarily need to sell copies of the game. So they have a whole different kind of way that they're looking at these games. So I don't think the single player game is in any chance of dying from a first party perspective. I mean, obviously Microsoft is kind of they've kind of alluded to the fact that they want to kind of move away from that. But I think the moral of the story is, at least from my perspective, the death of the single player game has been greatly exaggerated. They will still be around. There's lots of other things that are going on in the industry, but I do think there is something to the games as a service thing becoming a staple of the industry, and I know that's something that these big time publishers are thinking about.
And you made a good point about the path of least resistance. I mean, you look at the loot box thing. Yes, people were outraged. I guarantee you, they raise the price of games at $20, you'll see some real outrage. So I'll take the lesser of two evils. I'll take the microtransactions that I don't have to buy, as opposed to a price hike that I can't get around. Yeah. So
definitely,
I guess we just need to, as gamers, we need to step back and realize, look, these games are cheap. Okay, these games aren't cheap. We've invested into a hobby that's expensive. There's going to be, the developers have to make money in order to make the games we want to keep playing. It's as simple as that. So how they get their money back, whether it's an optional microtransaction or jacking up the price of the game, I'll take that optional microtransaction any day of the week, dude.
Yeah, and people who are old enough to remember paying more money for Super Nintendo games back in that time period. So we were paying $70 for some of these RPGs that were coming out for the Super Nintendo. So it's not unprecedented that the price of games could be higher. It's just this is what we're used to now. It's what we've been used to for the last 10 years or whatever. The $60 it's a $60 price point. And it's just gonna be one of those things where if it changes, the whole entire industry is gonna have to change, and then we'll just get used to it.
So disappointing news this week from for the Star Wars game, and especially the folks at Visceral. We really hope you guys and girls land on your feet somewhere. Obviously a very talented studio. But on the back of the death of the single player campaign that was going around this week, Activision has a patent out there that encourages players to buy microtransactions through matchmaking. What's Activision up to here, boys? Well, a patent granted to Activision outlines a new matchmaking system that would pair players together in order to encourage microtransactions. This was first reported by Rolling Stone. The patent, which was filed in 2015 and granted on October 17th of this year, outlines a process in which computer algorithms can match players together in order to increase the likelihood of microtransaction purchases. The matchmaking system would analyze player trends such as latency and weapon preference in order to place them in scenarios that might lead them to buy certain items. For example, Microtransaction Engine 128 may identify a junior player to match with a marquee player based on a player profile of the junior player. In a particular example, the junior player may wish to become an expert sniper in a game. Microtransaction Engine 128 may match the junior player with a player that is a highly skilled sniper in the game. In this manner, the junior player may be encouraged to make game-related purchases such as a rifle or other item used by the highly skilled sniper. Ooh, Activision. You sneaky bastards. That is some deep-seated stuff right there, boys. But it is worth noting that an Activision spokesperson did respond to this article, and here's what they had to say. This was an exploratory patent filed in 2015 by an R&D team working independently from our game studios. It has not been implemented in-game, end quote. But, boys, what do you think of that type of microtransaction kind of baiting you?
You remember when I said video games were a business?
Yes, sir.
So that's what it comes down to, and I think, like you said, man, the important thing to emphasize here is this was an exploratory patent. Patents happen all the time, man. I mean, companies are constantly researching and developing things and filing patents, and many of these things never ever get used. So this is something they were exploring. It hasn't been used up to this point. Bungie has also chimed in and confirmed that, look, this is not in Destiny, never was in Destiny, never was planning to have this in Destiny, so don't worry about that. So, it's not currently in use in any game. Is it playing dirty pool? I mean, I guess so. Trying to kind of manipulate people into purchasing microtransactions. That's probably taking things a little bit too far. But like I said, man, it's a business. So if they cracked some kind of a code, they could figure out a way where, I mean, obviously they're not holding a gun up to your head like, look, you got to buy this sniper rifle or you're a goner. But it's like it's interesting though that they figured out some type of a system that could encourage you to buy that one sniper rifle you really, really want if you're matched with this dude. So I don't know that we'll see this thing show up in any games, but it's crazy to know that this kind of technology is out there. And I don't know, man. I didn't get too up in arms over this. It's just kind of like, all right, they're researching something. It's not active right now. I would really need to see this in action. Like, I'd really need to see if I'd really feel compelled to buy something as a part of this system. I find it hard to figure out how I would really just be compelled to buy that. But yeah, it's kind of where I'm at on that.
Bender, how do you feel about that, man? Publishers trying to think of ways to kind of almost like slip in a subliminal message of sorts. Smoke. That's all I keep thinking of. Is this some kind of like a subliminal message to get you to buy something? What do you think of that, man?
Yeah, it's really weird, and I heard about this already, and I think another aspect of the algorithm was that it'll match you with somebody who's already purchased a really powerful weapon or something like that. So you'll see it in action, and that'll make you want to purchase it. And then if you do purchase it, like on the next match that you go into, it'll match you into a map or a mode where that particular weapon is very effective. So you feel like your purchase was justified, and you feel more powerful. And I was like, man, that just sounds really insidious. That just sounds it just doesn't sound right. Just like morally, like they're just trying to manipulate people and just make them feel like they want to buy something, and then they make them feel justified for buying something, and that'll make them want to buy more stuff. And I don't know, man. I hope they don't. I hope they don't incorporate something like that into games, or if they do, I hope they're transparent about it and they say, okay, this is in the game, but they probably wouldn't. But I don't know.
Man, and that stuff would drive me nuts, because like I would fall for that. I'd be like playing in a match, and I'd be like just getting owned by a dude with this gun, and I'd be like, man, I suck. And I'd be like, hey, I want that gun, and I'd go and buy that gun through the microtransaction, jump back into a match, and I'd be like, nope, I still suck, even with this really good gun. So it'd be a double whammy, buying it, falling for the microtransaction subliminal message, and still sucking. So. But sneaky Activision, look at them. Okay, well, I'll be keeping an eye on that. If I feel the urge to buy an SMG, I'm gonna call bullshit on that. So in the next Call of Duty game. So going from Activision to CD Projekt Red, they put out a statement due to a rumor earlier or last month that spread about the Polish company, mostly based on negative Glassdoor reviews complaining of mismanagement and low morale. CD Projekt Red released a statement in response saying that its approach to making games is not for everyone, and that the studio is taking its time on its next project, Cyberpunk 2077. They went on to say, quote, "We'd normally avoid commenting on company reviews on spaces like Glassdoor, but this time around, especially in the light of the fact that we haven't communicated anything about Cyberpunk 2077 for a long time and saw some gamers getting worried about the project, we'd like to elaborate on a few things." And they released a whole statement. But the game is progressing fine. It's progressing as planned. And they're just not talking a lot about this game simply because that's how they work. They want to work behind the scenes. Obviously, you're always going to have people with any company who aren't going to be happy with the way business is run. But for all intents and purposes, CD Projekt Red has come out and said, "Hey, look, Cyberpunk 2077 is fine. It's progressing as planned. Relax. We'll talk about this game when we're ready."
Yeah, I think they've earned the right to to work at their own pace. People love The Witcher 3, and they've been very successful with that game. So let them take their time, and they'll come out with it when they're ready.
Exactly. Boys, your thoughts on CD Projekt Red?
Yeah, I mean it's a bit strange, like you mentioned, that they would come out and address a Glassdoor reviews. So don't know exactly what the impetus was behind it. I don't know if this. I think there was maybe a Polygon article or something that highlighted some of these negative reviews, and maybe that's why they wanted to get out in front of it. Not 100% sure. I missed the kind of catalyst for why this happened. But yeah, I mean, this is once again going along with the conversation this week. Like, this is one of the realities of AAA development, especially for a big project, a big RPG project like Cyberpunk 2077 is sure to be. That there's going to be long nights. There's going to be days where you're not going to see your family very much. You're not going to be home for dinner. When crunch time comes, you're going to be on your computer for 10, 11, 12 hours a day, like getting this game ready for prime time. So this is obviously not a lifestyle that's fit for everybody. So it's I think they're just kind of trying to tackle that. Like, look, these are the realities of the business. And the other thing with Glassdoor is, and with most of these review places, is when people post a review, it's usually negative because those are the people that are inspired to post a review. Like, usually when you have a great experience with something, your first thought isn't, "Man, let me go post a review for this. This was such a great experience." But when you get that shitty waiter at the restaurant, you're like, "Man, I can't wait to get on Yelp and destroy this place." so it's like that's kind of just the way that the human mind works. It's like when there's a negative situation, you just want to get in there and let everybody know about it. When it's a positive situation, you don't have that feeling as much. So that's kind of what's going on with the Glassdoor situation. And like CD Projekt Red was saying, like, look, this is the realities of AAA development. It is what it is. There's still people that are excited to be here and excited to work on their games. So yeah, I don't know that this is too much of an issue moving forward.
Right. All right. Well, hey, we're going to take a quick break. We've got some music here from Ruel Ethan, and we'll be right back. And welcome back. Thanks again to Ruel Ethan for producing the music for the podcast. He does the opening, the closing, the music you heard right there. Very talented young man. Follow him on Twitter at Ruel Ethan and check out his music on iTunes and SoundCloud. All right, guys, let's get right back into it. And it wouldn't be a short pause podcast if we didn't talk about Destiny 2. Just the other day at TwitchCon, Bungie held a panel to talk about Destiny 2's seasons. And there will be 4 seasons in the first year of Destiny 2. Now, currently we're in Season 1. They didn't say exactly when Season 2 will begin, but there will be at least one more Iron Banner and Faction Rally before then. Both of those will take place after the PC version launches this week, after which the PC version will be on the same schedule as the console versions. So, Short Pause Guardians, we're very, very close to the final tier.
Mm-hmm.
I would say we probably have 2 or 3 weeks left before this season ends. So now that I'm back and I can get back to playing Destiny 2, I will do my part to get that weekly contribution up. So moving on from that, we found out that seasons will reset your clan progress, so everyone starts from 0.
Which is what we thought prior going into this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Bungie said that was to make it so that new clans could keep pace with more established high-level clans. The perks you get from leveling up your clan will change depending on the season and what that season is focusing on. The first season focused on the Cabal, the next season likely won't. And that's another thing we were curious about. Are these perks going to change? Mm-hmm. Yes, they will. Mm-hmm. And that's cool. They're kind of themed almost. Like you'll see different themes that they'll focus on. So that'll kind of keep things fresh. More focus on these enemies and whatnot. Go to different areas more. So that's pretty sweet. Season turnovers will also be where Bungie makes larger tweaks to weapon balance and introduces with new content. There were very few specifics on what that content might look like naturally. They said they're still planning to push out weapon balance tweaks as needed during seasons, but the start of the season sounds like that's where the biggest meta changes will take place. In Season 2, they're adding ornaments to Trials, Iron Banner, and Faction Rally gear. You get the gear itself through the regular process of turning in the tokens, but the ornaments will work slightly differently. To unlock an ornament, you'll have to complete some sort of challenge tracked by the gear itself. Not the biggest deal in the world, but definitely a step in the right direction. Weapons will also change from season to season as well. It sounds as though there will be some shuffling of kinetic and energy archetypes, as well as perks, to make the weapon pool start to feel bigger and more varied. The example they gave was the Iron Banner hand cannon, which is currently a kinetic weapon, but may return in Season 2 as an energy weapon with a different perk.
Interesting.
The microtransactions-based Bright engrams will also be refreshed between seasons. They say they'll be changing most of the content contained in Bright engrams with new emotes and new ships and sparrows. You can only get season-specific cosmetic items during that season. If you get a cool ship in Season 2, you won't be able to get it in Season 3. Same with emotes, gear ornaments, and Eververse armor sets. Shaders are the one exception. They stay the same from season to season. There will be new shaders with each season, but they won't take any away.
What was that about Activision microtransaction forcing you to buy stuff? It's really pretty simple and not very scientific if you're just like, hey, you can only get this stuff for a limited amount of time before this new stuff is available. Then people are going to be like, okay, well, maybe I should buy some of this stuff because I might not get it.
That's a good point. They also briefly talked about Clarion Calls, which will be a limited-time global events that give XP bonuses if you meet certain criteria. The example they gave offered a 2 times XP buff to anyone doing an event in a fire team with a clan member. They said other Clarion Calls won't necessarily require a clan. And lastly, there will also be at least one new Crucible map in Season 2, and it'll work similarly to the maps from Trials of the Nine, Iron Banner, and the Leviathan Raid. Something will trigger the map to unlock, which will be available to everyone. So, boys, looking back through these the details of the seasons, what stands out to you? What interests you, and does there are any concerns with what we've read here?
I actually really like this, Brent. The thing that I like the most is that we And the term that Deej used was cadence. Like there's a cadence to the updates for the game, and we know when and where this is going to happen now. So basically, with 4 seasons in a year, roughly every 3 months, we're going to start a new season in Destiny 2, and with that new season is going to come a big time update that's going to change aspects of the game. So when the season turns over, we're going to get some kind of an update that balances weapons, that maybe introduces some kind of an event. Like with Season 2, we know the Dawning is returning as the winter-themed event for Destiny 2. So we don't know if Sparrow Racing is going to be a part of that or what exactly the Dawning is going to entail. But we know that when Season 2 comes, like we're going to have a new event to take part in. So I really like that we now know that like basically every 3 months we've got this big-time season change that's going to usher in some type of an update for the game, some type of new content for the game. I like the idea of them shuffling the perks on some of these guns as well. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. But I like that there's basically like a plan in place for the Destiny updates. We know exactly how this is going to working forward. And that's the thing that stands out to me the most.
Mm-hmm. Bender, how about you, buddy?
I think this is pretty sweet. I like the idea of, changing up the things that you earn, the things that you do, and giving you new objectives to go to keep you busy, throughout the year. I think that's a pretty good idea. And our clan seems to be moving along at a good pace. We're almost to rank 6, and I'm sure we'll be able to keep up that pace with the next season and beyond. So it's been a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the other seasons will bring.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm interested in the how the weapons will change, and like Ben mentioned, the perks. I do also like how the tiers will be changing as well, the rewards that you get. I like how it changes up the focus on different enemies, because that'll kind of organically get people to bounce around to different parts of the universe that you can explore. Maybe you won't spend so much time in one area, you'll spend more in another area, and just kind of keep people spread around, moving everybody around. So I think that's a really cool idea. And some of these ornaments are freaking sexy. I don't know if you guys saw the pictures for them, especially the clan faction stuff. Man, some of these are really, really sexy ornaments. So I'll be focusing a lot on ornaments once those get added, because some of those make your character look totally badass.
The other thing they mentioned too is that the next faction rally is going to be focused around armor for that faction. So whereas the first time around we were trying to get a weapon, sounds like there's going to be armor involved. I'm not sure if it's going to be an entire set of armor, like from head to toe, but that's to me what it was sounding like. So there's going to be different focuses for the faction rallies as well when those occur. I was playing through the Iron Banner when it was out recently, and one of the milestones for Iron Banner was that you unlocked I think it's 10 Iron Banner packages over the course of season 1. So I was looking at that, I was like, man, is season 1 like just this first Iron Banner? But I didn't have time to get to 10 packages, but now I know that there's going to be another Iron Banner in this season, so now I'll be able to go back and work on that milestone in the future. So that's cool as well.
Yeah, that is pretty sweet as well. Another thing they talked about is the Dawning will be returning this winter. This is the holiday-themed event that took place in the original Destiny. The seasonal event will manifest with some changes to the tower and the farm. Players will also be able to play casual minigames like hockey and have snowball fights during the Dawning. That sounds pretty sweet. I'll be looking forward to throwing snowballs in Boyce's face at the farm.
The one of the cool things about the snowballs, Brent, is that they mentioned the snowballs are going to be like dispersed throughout the levels that you go through. So you'll actually be able to pick up snowballs and throw them at enemies and cause damage. So they'll be around the levels. So that's going to be kind of cool.
That's awesome when they add stuff like that. It makes it so cool.
Yeah.
Jeez. And then the last thing they talked about, the glitches seemed to have sidelined the Trials of the Nine for the next 2 weeks. Earlier this week, Bungie removed players' ability to purchase the bureaucratic walk emote after discovering that they could use it to clip out of bounds. Players who previously bought the remote can still use it, however, players who previously bought the emote can still use it, however. But in a blog post yesterday or the other day, Bungie announced they will be postponing the Trials of the Nine until the issue can be resolved. And you know what? Yep, that's exactly why I sucked at the Trials of the Nines. People were glitching out of the map, had nothing to do with everyone owning me with the might of multi-tool. It's because people were glitching out of the map. That's why we sucked. I blame Bungie for that.
Yeah.
That's funny. I have that emote. I should try that. See if I can go through a wall or something.
Man,
Yeah.
you're so dirty.
Apparently how it works, Bender, is when the character takes a step forward, the character like moves backwards, like after taking the step. And so what people are doing is they're backing up against a wall, and they're taking a step forward, and then the character kind of phases through the wall when he takes the step back. So that's how people are getting to some of these places on the map. On Kotaku here, they were showing how they got behind the Eververse counter, so they're standing right next to Tess. Like, 'cause they did the walk and just like phased right through the counter on the back pedal.
That's awesome.
So yeah, you can get to all kinds of places apparently in the map. So better take advantage of that while you can, man. Before they patch that out.
Yep.
I tell you what, I absolutely hate it when people use glitches like that in games. I can't stand it until I learn how to do it myself. SOCOM 2 on the Crossroads map, there was an ability on top of one of the buildings, if you got into a prone position, and if you kept reloading, as you moved around a little bit, you would fall through the roof, and you were inside the building. Now, nobody could see you in there, but you could shoot out. And, man, I would just sit there and snipe my buddies all day from inside the building. And I didn't tell them I knew how to do that glitch, and my team didn't even know where I was shooting from. But they were like, dude, how are you shooting me already? We just started. You're on the other side of the map, and there's all these walls. I'm like, man, you suck. Yeah, it's not fun until you learn how to do it yourself. Then it's kind of hilarious. But don't do it in ranked matches. Only do it with your friends in like non-ranked rooms. If you do it in ranked matches, then you're an asshole. So no Trials of the 9 for at least 2 weeks. Hopefully Bungie can get that ironed out so it won't be an issue anymore. But I'm just terrified to get back into the Trials of the 9. Trials of the 9 is just as bad as the Trials of Osiris. I just suck something awful at it. I have yet. Do we win a single match? We didn't win a single round.
No.
Wow. We are like now what? 0 for 90 something between Trials of Osiris and Trials of the Nines. I just want one round, dude. If I get one round, I'm gonna take the rest of the work week off and just get drunk. That's all I'm gonna do. Man, that's
Here's the thing with Trials of the 9, man. It's like anybody can get into Trials of the 9. There's no level advantages enabled, so at some point, we're going to run up against a group of people who are doing the exact same thing we're doing. Like, they're just jumping in, trying to get a trophy. That's the other thing, too. Thankfully, there's a trophy associated with this. This is going to force people who don't normally play Trials of the 9 to hop into Trials of the 9 to try to get this trophy. And one of these days, man, we're going to run into that group that's just puttering along like we are. And it's probably going to be a shit show. It's going to be a couple of guys tripping over each other. But we're gonna get into that match, and we're gonna beat one of these teams, and we're gonna claim a Trials victory.
No, we're not. We're gonna get slaughtered, and then we're gonna really just realize we are worthless in the Trials of the 9.
Dude, let me live my dream, okay? All right, let me keep my dream alive.
Enjoy your dream. I'll be in reality on the losing side.
But yeah, I mean, with Trials of the 9, man, the thing is, we have to get in there and practice. We the first time we jumped into Trials of the 9, we were playing a new mode on a new map. We had no idea what was going on with anything. So like anything, it's going to be a matter of us just trying to get in there, dedicating ourselves to this event for a few days, and really trying to practice and get our level up so we can compete. And then hopefully something will happen from there.
Yeah, it won't. So that's your Destiny 2 moment. Boys, let's jump into the world of PlayStation news. What's going on over at Sony, man?
So first off, Brent, we have a statement that we're going to read from Naughty Dog and Sony. It was a joint statement they released. This is in response to the very serious allegations that we talked about last week from I believe his name's David Ballard, who had a claim of sexual harassment while he was employed at Naughty Dog. So this is a statement that was released, like I said, this past week. Was posted on the Naughty Dog blog. This was released in conjunction with Sony. So it reads as follows. Quote, we have recently read on social media that an ex-employee of Naughty Dog, Dave Ballard, claims he was sexually harassed when he worked at Naughty Dog. We have not found any evidence of having received allegations from Mr. Ballard that he was harassed in any way at Naughty Dog or Sony Interactive Entertainment. Harassment and inappropriate conduct have no place at Naughty Dog and Sony Interactive Entertainment. We have taken and always will take reports of sexual harassment and other workplace grievances very seriously. We value every single person who works at Naughty Dog and Sony Interactive Entertainment. It is of utmost importance to us that we maintain a safe, productive workplace environment that allows us all to channel our shared passion for making games. End quote. So, just wanted to throw that out there as this is the only update we've had on this story. David or Dave has disappeared from Twitter, at least since he made this statement. So it's been a little strange to see this come out and then it just kind of vanished. I would assume this is maybe for legal purposes. Maybe he's got a lawyer involved and he's putting together some type of a case or something to proceed with this further. Or I don't know. I don't want to speculate on any of this kind of stuff, but like I said, we have very serious allegations here. This is kind of the point that we're at now. We have an allegation. We have a claim by Naughty Dog and Sony that they don't have any record of a harassment claim ever being filed with them. So so basically somebody's got to get to the truth of the matter here and figure out what's going on with this, figure out what happened with Dave, and then we'll move on from there. But Brent, I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the last show when we talked about this. Have you kind of kept up with a little bit of what's going on with this?
Yeah, it just it seems to be happening everywhere right now. It all started with the Harvey Weinstein incident, and it's people empowering others to come forward with their stories. And I'm not going to sit there and discredit anybody. I mean, to come forward and make this type of an allegation, I have to believe there must have been something that caused that to happen. Now, whether it did or whether it happened the way Dave says, I have no idea. Like I said, it's just it's going to be a he said, she said thing, and we're just going to have to wait and see how it plays out. But, hey, for him to step forward and talk about it and put it out there, I respect that. Everyone has that right, and nobody should ever live in fear of persecution from anybody else if they have something to talk about. And so I respect the folks that have stepped forward to call out the people that have affected them in a negative way sexually. And hopefully, this continues to clean up, in just about every industry right now, that we this is not tolerated. This is unacceptable behavior, and this shouldn't happen to anybody. So, Dave stepping forward and talking about it, I respect that. Naughty Dog and Sony's response, I respect what they said, but now it's going to get down to the nitty gritty, and eventually, something will have to come from this. Allegations are made. It's not as simple as saying, "Oh no, I was just joking." Something's going to have to come from this, and I'm sure we'll hear about it in the weeks and months ahead. And this is something that's just going to continue to happen going forward, and rightfully so. People need to talk about this sort of thing.
Yeah, and like we talked about on the last show, Brent. This is not the first time we've heard of this kind of behavior in the video game industry. So I have no doubt that this kind of stuff is happening and has happened in the industry. Whether or not it happened at Naughty Dog, I have no idea. But we've heard the stories about harassment on the workplace before in the gaming industry. So hopefully, these, like you said, these kind of stories, this kind of dialogue will continue to happen, and we can continue to kind of make strides in this area, and just make gaming a place that everybody can feel safe in. And I know that's long been a goal of Sony. They've been about inclusivity with their brand, and I know Sean Layden's very passionate about that kind of stuff as well. I often see him tweeting about those kind of issues. So hopefully, like we're saying, that we get to the bottom of this, figure out what's going on, figure out if there's somebody that was involved that's still involved or that is still a part of this, that we weed them out and take the proper actions from there. But yeah, that's all we have at this point. We have a statement from Naughty Dog and Sony. We have Dave's statement on Twitter before, and that's kind of where we're at right now, man. From here, we don't want to speculate or do anything like that any further. It's just a matter of just kind of seeing how things play out, I guess. So just wanted to update everybody on that. All right, so let's move on from there. So we have 2 new Star Wars Battlefront 2 bundles that have been announced this week. So first off, we have the limited edition Star Wars Battlefront 2 PS4 Pro bundle, which includes a customized Pro system, a matching DualShock 4 controller, a physical copy of Star Wars Battlefront 2 Deluxe Edition, and I guess that's it. This special PS4, a first of its kind in North America, according to the PlayStation blog, has a mirror finish and is decorated with the iconic Galactic Empire and Resistance emblems, as well as the emblem for the Inferno Squad, an elite Imperial task force featured in the single-player campaign of the game, of course. If you look closely at the matching DualShock, you can spot different logos from Star Wars imprinted on the touchpad. The included deluxe edition of the game lets you play 3 days earlier than the standard edition as well. Comes with the premium content that's included with that in the regular copy as well. They're also introducing a Battlefront 2 PS4 bundle that has the standard PS4, the slim PS4, with a 1 terabyte hard drive, a DualShock 4 controller, and a physical copy of the standard edition of Star Wars Battlefront 2. So the limited edition Pro bundle will retail for $449.99. That'll be out on November 14th. The standard edition will be out on November 17th for $299.99. So, what do you think about this hookup, Brent?
I think that Pro one's sexy as hell.
Yeah. Indeed. I also like too that they're starting to bring out more Pro bundles. When we first saw the Pro come out, we were still seeing a lot of regular PlayStation bundles, but now we're seeing them kind of dip their toes into both systems. So I like that with the Star Wars bundle, they have one for the regular PS4 and one for the Pro. So whichever route you're looking to go, like you'll have something there waiting for you. Bender, what do you think about these, man? You about to jump into your PS4 Pro here with the limited edition Battlefront bundle?
I don't know. I honestly don't think this console looks that great. I think it looks just kind of so. Just they slap some logos on there. I mean, I could do the same thing by putting some stickers on my PS4. I think I don't know. I think Sony's kind of needs to work on their graphic design abilities with some of these custom consoles. I like the concept of having a custom console, but just the last Battlefront one was better, and with the Darth Vader on it, that one looked cooler. I don't know. I'm really hoping is if next year they're going to have a Spider-Man Pro bundle. If it looks cool, that's the one I'll jump on. I can't wait for that game, and that's what I'm waiting for.
Now, you want to know how to make that Battlefront 2 one look more appealing, Bender? Just go ahead and slide that Call of Duty one right next to it, and all of a sudden the Star Wars one looks a lot better.
Yeah, that's true. When you compare it to the Call of Duty one. Yeah, that one was ugly.
Man, if they come out with a Spider-Man PS4 Pro, hell, I might have to buy that one too.
Oh, my.
Yeah, it's neither here nor there. Let's move on. So, Rayark's hit music game Demo. It's a game we've talked about several times on the podcast. This is that very interesting narrative rhythm game that I've always wanted to play, but have never got around to yet. It's being remade for the PlayStation 4. So, tentatively titled Demo Reborn, this new version of the game reimagines the game in full 3D, complete with VR support. No release date yet for this game, but be on the lookout for that. Either you guys ever fire up Demo? Always been curious about that one. I need to play that at some point. And finally, Brent, from the world of PlayStation, a very interesting story here. So apparently, the trademark for Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds has been suspended thanks to a mobile slot machine game. So, here's the story here. This is via IGN, but NeoGAF user Roasty, and by the way, before we started recording the show, apparently NeoGAF has shut down. So that's kind of some hot off the presses stuff here. So
like permanently?
Yeah, I believe NeoGAF is down. For all the mods have left the site, I believe.
Oh.
If you try to log into it now, I don't think you get anything there. Yeah. So when you log into NeoGAF right now, it says apologies for the temporary inconvenience. NeoGAF is currently down for scheduled maintenance. Please be patient while the site is down. But I don't know that the site's going to come back. I was literally reading this like before we started the show today, but apparently all the mods have left the site, and I don't know exactly what's going on or what caused this, but NeoGAF in turmoil right now.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
So, anyways, so back to the story at hand here. So, NeoGAF user, or former NeoGAF user, possibly, a Rosti, discovered that the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office's suspension notice for this, which is reportedly over a month old. In the notice, the Patent Office states that the mobile game developer Huge Games, that's huge with 3 U's, filed for a similar trademark before Sony. Huge Games filed a trademark for its mobile slot machine game Frozen Wild. So, they gave the Patent Office gave this reason for the suspension: if the mark in the referenced application registers, applicant's mark may be refused registration under the Section 2D because of a likelihood of confusion with that registered mark. Now I'm no patent office manager, but I find it hard to believe that the Frozen Wild slot machine mobile game would in any way be mistaken for Horizon Zero Dawn: The Frozen Wilds. So to me, this seems like a case that will kind of come and go, and that'll kind of be the end of it. I don't see how this case has any legs to stand on. But the current suspension doesn't necessarily mean the name will have to be changed, as Sony has the ability to respond and make the case that there won't be any confusion between the two trademarks. Like I said, I find it very hard to believe anybody is going to download the Frozen Wild mobile slot machine game and be like, man, I really thought this was Horizon Zero Dawn. So, I don't know. What do you make of this, Brent?
It'll be a dead issue by tomorrow.
Yeah. So that's gonna do it. So hopefully this little mobile slot machine game doesn't impede the release of the Frozen Wilds, but I don't think it will.
I don't think it will either.
Yeah.
But what will impede this show is a fighting game section, and if you need any help with this one, boys, let Bender know.
Yeah, obviously my fighting game cohort not on the show tonight, so we'll make this section brief so that Bender and Brent don't fall asleep and that the listeners don't kill me because they're just listening to me talk about fighting games. So a couple things we want to know here. First off, Street Fighter V's next and last DLC fighter for Season 2 has been announced, and it's Zeku, an awesome looking fighter. Honestly, he's going to be a very complex fighter because he has 2 sets of moves you need to learn. But he has the ability to change from old Zeku to young Zeku, or Zeku. Not sure how to say his name. But he can change from this old Ninja Master to this young Ninja Master by doing this command in the game. And that gives him access to different abilities with each of those characters. So essentially when you're learning Zeku, you're learning 2 different characters at once. So he's going to be a very complex fighter when all is said and done. He actually has a Strider skin for him as well. So in his young form, he kind of looks like Strider. So
nice.
Some people are postulating that maybe Zeku is Strider and that the younger version of Zeku is actually Strider. Don't know how the greater story is going to work out, but Zeku was first seen in Street Fighter Alpha 2 as a mentor to Guy of Final Fight fame. So apparently he uses that Bukayu style, or I remember exactly how to say it. It starts with a B. But he uses that same style that Guy uses. So yeah, Zeku looks like a very, very interesting fighter. Definitely go and check out his trailer. Lots of Street Fighter V pros I know are chomping at the bit to get into this guy and see what he's all about. He's a really cool looking character.
I'm going to chime in on the fighting game section.
Ooh.
I'm going to pick up Street Fighter V. Seriously, I'm going to pick this up because I've been waiting for a character as complex and as deep as Little Mac to make his way into Street Fighter V. So
There you go.
now, finally, yes, I will learn Ziku and just destroy you.
There you go, man. Your wish has been granted.
Yes.
So the little Mac of Street Fighter V has finally arrived in Zeku.
Woo, finally a challenge.
Let's move on from there. Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle has had some platforms announced, and it's headed to both the PS4 and the Switch, in addition to the PC. So a nice little get for the Switch and the PS4. Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle looks awesome. It's a crossover fighter set in the Blaze Blue universe. It has characters from some other anime as well. So it's a really cool looking game. I watched some footage of some of the matches and things and watched it play out, but looks like a high octane tag game in that very beautiful like 2D animated style that these games are drawn in. So can't wait to see more about that in I believe it'll be here in 2018. And finally, Brent, 2 new fighters added to Dragon Ball Z. I'm sorry, Dragon Ball Fighters or Fighter Z, however you say the name of that game. Nappa and Captain Ginyu. Both added to the roster. So characters from early in the Dragon Ball Z saga will now be a part of that game. Game continues to look better and better every time I see it. Can't wait to actually get my hands on that and play that game. But yeah, I could definitely see Reckons people as Captain Ginyu. I was a Ginyu fan. So
Are we done?
that's it.
Fantastic.
That's it for fighting
Thanks
games.
for not being here this week, Frankie. Really appreciate it, dude. All right, let's jump into some Nintendo news. First, the NPD results are in. Nintendo Switch has claimed another month in the console sales race. It was the top-selling system in September in the U.S., according to the industry tracking firm, the NPD Group. But it wasn't only the successful Nintendo product of the month. The NES Classic Edition launched in September as well. All Nintendo systems, which also include the aging 3DS, accounted for 2/3 of all gaming hardware sold during the month. 2/3 of all hardware was Nintendo. That's a very nice month. Nintendo has now sold 2 million Switches in the U.S. alone since the consoles launched in March. This is the 3rd month in a row that the machine has been on top of the NPD's charts and the 5th month in total. It continues to beat its competitors, PlayStation 4 and Xbox One, heading into a very big holiday season. Boys, your thoughts on the Switch taking its 3rd month in a row, setting up a big-time battle with PlayStation and Xbox for the big fall rush?
Yeah, I mean, kudos to Nintendo. They've created a system that clearly has resonated with the masses, and at first they were doing this in a supply constrained environment, but pretty much every time I walk into a store now, I see Switches on the shelf. So I think they've gotten past the supply issues at this point, and they're getting consoles onto the shelves for people, and people are going out and buying them. So this is a trend that I see continuing through the holiday season, and at the end of the day, I'm not sure that that Microsoft and Sony are looking at Nintendo as somebody that they need to compete with, so to speak, on this. I think they're more concerned with kind of locking horns with each other. And at the end of the day, I think they feel like Nintendo being a vibrant force in the industry is only good for just gaming in general, because it brings more people into the industry and keeps more people into there. So I don't know. I'm curious if they look at the Switch, like if they follow the Switch numbers and they get competitive with that stuff, like they want to be the top selling console, or if they simply just are kind of focused on their own world. What do you think, man? Do you think they're following the Switch closely from a business perspective?
I'm probably not so much right now. I mean, obviously, Sony and Microsoft want to take the Black Friday. They want to take November. They want to take December. They're not just sitting there going, oh, no, we don't care. I mean, they care. I just don't know if this is the November, December they really care about. Now, next year, if the Switch continues and it keeps pulling in some of these bigger third-party games, albeit older ones, but if it keeps getting the support it gets, then I think at some point Sony and Microsoft are going to be like, okay, let's see what they're doing, and what can we do to get some of these sales back.
So Nintendo doing their thing. And Like I said, I don't anticipate this changing through the holiday season. I expect the Switch to continue to fly off shelves, especially with Mario involved. And I mean, just a huge first year for the Switch, having a Zelda and a Mario come out for the system, brand new Zelda, brand new Mario for the system in the same year. That's going to pay dividends moving throughout the holiday season. I was a little surprised to see the 2 million number. I feel like it should be higher than that at this point. I feel like they've sold more than 2 million units, but maybe not. The PlayStation 4 sold a million units on its first day or whatever. I saw some people talking about that, so just kind of thinking about that. I don't remember what the initial shipment of was the Switch, but I thought it was pretty high. I know they sold out of all those, and the damn thing's been sold out for the better part of 6 months. So I felt like they were going to be higher than 2 million, but if not, 2 million still strong, and they're clearly going to beat their projections, which was like 10 million worldwide or something by the end of their fiscal year. They'll probably pass that in the calendar year here for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Bender, any surprise there seeing the SNES Classic helping them get 2/3 of consoles sold? What do you think about that, man?
That's pretty cool. It's not too surprising. Everything, SNES Classic is obviously a hot ticket item. The Switch is selling very well, so that's really cool for them. And man, it's crazy to think that the Switch is probably going to pass Wii U's lifetime sales, like by the end of next year, probably. If not sooner.
I think it's gonna be way before that. They could be like 10, 11 million units at the end of this year, or at the end of their fiscal year, and so they'll be nipping right at the Wii U's heels at that point.
Yeah, because I think it was like 12 million or something.
Yeah, it was something like that.
Yeah, so that's crazy. I mean, I guess that both speaks to the popularity of the Switch and the failure of the Wii U at the same time. So, but yeah, I'm really glad Nintendo's kind of pulling themselves up and doing pretty well. So that's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean they've got it all going on right now. They've got a hot ticket item. They've got the software there. They've had some great games, both first party, and then you've got like Mario's and Rabbids doing very well. And you still got Xenoblades at the end of the year. So I mean, it's shaping up to be a really big year for the Switch. You've got Doom and Elder Scrolls V coming out in the next couple of weeks. Lots of big games coming to the Switch this fall, and it'll be. The one thing I want to see, though, is I want to see how this carries over to 2018. We don't know a whole lot about 2018, especially first-party stuff. I mean, you've got Mario and Zelda out right now. I'm assuming Pokemon will be the big one for 2018. They got the Pokemon game coming. But what else will Nintendo have? What other third-party... Bethesda's only got so many games. What other third-party studios can get games out onto that system?
That's the big question for 2018, Brent, with the Switch. They came out firing this year, like you said. Their heavy hitters are on the table. So moving into next year, what's going to be the driving force for them? I don't think Pokemon's going to be a 2018 game on the Switch. I think just from some of the comments we heard recently, I don't know how far along they are with that, or when we might see the next Pokemon game. But just gut reaction to that is that's a 2019 game. So, we know they're going to have Kirby, the Yoshi game. They're going to have some of those kind of like second tier first party games that are going to be coming out, like not their big heavy hitters. We know Metroid Prime won't be available next year. So it's going to be interesting to see how they kind of satiate their fans throughout 2018. And maybe it's through some third party partnerships they can work up. But from a first party perspective, it's going to be interesting to see how they bring all this together.
Indeed. So we don't have any games data right now in terms of software. We have to wait until tomorrow, or I think it's Monday, the 23rd. I think it was. They said that information will be released. There was some kind of glitch in the system. They didn't have the right numbers, so we don't have software data right now. But we'll find out this week. So, but let's stick with.
We know the top game. Top game is going to be Destiny 2, right? There's no way it's not.
I don't know, man. No, I'm just messing with you. Yeah, it's got to be. So we do know that much. Destiny 2 will be the top game. But let's stay with Nintendo. We've got some Nintendo news to discuss here. First up, Pokemon Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon will be the last 3DS Pokemon RPG. Yep, that's it. Those two will be the culmination of a series developer Game Freak's worked on 3DS, presumably before the core Pokemon RPG series moves to its new home on the Nintendo Switch. Game Freak director Shigeru Omari explained that the company has seen each of its 3DS games as the full extent of what could be achieved on the handheld console. This is what he had to say. When we were making Pokemon X and Y, we really were trying to push the 3DS system to its absolute limits, which is what we thought we'd done. But when Sun and Moon came around, we completely redesigned the system and actually ended up pushing the 3DS even further to what we thought was the most we could draw out of it. However, the process of the improvement seems to have come to an end, with the upshot being that Game Freak will move on after the new game's release on November 17th. Omari explained, with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, we've tried to eke that out more and really push the system to its absolute limits, and we're now feeling that perhaps this is the maximum of what we can get out of it. So we're really treating Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon as the culmination of our work with a 3DS system. So there you go. The 3DS will no longer receive like a full-on RPG Pokemon game. I'm not sure if they'll ever get any kind of a spin-off, but that's it for the 3DS, boys. What do you think about that, man?
This is kind of big news, man. So this signals a couple things. Obviously, it signals that from here on out, Pokemon is going to be on the Switch.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where its home is going to be. That's where they're going to be focusing on. It also may signal the greater kind of end in sight for the 3DS. When they stop making Pokemon games for the system, like that's kind of like the writings on the wall. Like the end for this system is nigh. So, and at that point, like do we get this wish that we've had for a while now of a unified Nintendo taking all of their development talents from both the handheld and console sectors and just strictly focusing on the Switch moving forward? Like, is this what we're finally going to be moving towards with Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon signaling the end of Pokemon games on the 3DS? To me, once they stop making those Pokemon games on there, like that's it for the system. It's time for that thing to ride off into the sunset. Like when their major pusher of handheld units is not going to be on that platform anymore, like that's it. So, I think that's really the most interesting thing about this. Like it could signal like kind of the end of the 3DS. I guess another question is, would Nintendo make another just dedicated handheld system? Would they make another DS system, or are we going to be like 100% in on the Switch now as both a handheld and home console in all in one unit?
I would much rather them just focus on the Switch and
Me
make
too.
that, because it is a handheld. I mean, it's a hybrid system, and not having to worry about packing up another system on the go. I would just like it to all be right there on the Switch, so I can play games in handheld mode on the go with one Nintendo system. That's just where I stand. I don't know how Bender, how do you feel about that?
No, I agree. I really hope that they, if once Pokemon moves over to the Switch, I mean, I agree with both of you guys that, that's probably going to signal the beginning of the end for the 3DS. And, and I really hope that they move all their efforts into the Switch, because that's going to mean, just more games and, more support and a growing library. And that's going to be a healthier ecosystem for the Switch. So I hope that's what they do.
I agree.
Yeah, just think about when when they're spending years and years developing the next Mario, the next Zelda game. Like if they have their whole entire handheld team also focused on the Switch, like they're going to be able to bring out all of these other first-party games now to the system that they normally wouldn't have been able to bring out while they're developing these other games. So we won't see that like same drought that we saw with the Wii U from the first-party games. If all of their entire stable of developers is focused on this one system, like that's a lot of games they can use to fill out the release calendar while we're waiting for like these big tentpole games like Metroid Prime and the next Mario and Zelda or Smash Brothers, all that kind of stuff. So I think that would be a huge boon for the Switch.
I agree. So that's what we know about Pokemon. Up next, Doom finally has a release date on the Nintendo Switch, and it's 3 weeks from now, November 10th.
It's also a week before Skyrim.
It is.
Which is interesting.
Very interesting, but I mean, that's you got to get those in before Xenoblades. So I mean, I guess try to get you got Mario coming out now. You get your third-party stuff in November, and then you got Xenoblade to close out the year. But yeah, it's a lot of big titles coming out for the Switch in the next 4 weeks here, and yeah, it is very strange to see Bethesda go, okay, let's go one here and then the next one there. That is kind of close there.
Yeah, and I get it with Skyrim. Maybe you want to get that one out before Xenoblade Chronicles, so that they're not cannibalizing each other. But with Doom, I feel like Doom is not going to encroach upon Xenoblade. It's a completely different type of game, a different type of audience for that game. So I really thought they were going to move the release date a little bit away from Skyrim in that respect, so they're not bringing both of their Switch published games out right on top of each other. But I guess not.
I wonder if they're just looking at it like, hey, look, this is going to be, getting close to Black Friday. A lot of Switches are going to be selling.
Yeah.
And there's going to be people that want first-person shooters, and there's going to be people that are going to want Skyrim. And, you might as well get it out there now when people are going to, because like you guys said, this thing's going to be flying off the shelves like crazy this holiday. And you're going to want to have something for everybody. And getting Doom in there, it will benefit from that big rush. And whether or not that affects, Skyrim, or if they kind of cancel each other out, remains to be seen. We'll see what the MPD says. But I feel like they're just doing that to get that into that Black Friday when those Switches start flying off shelves.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question that this is a Black Friday move to get the games out ahead of that, ahead of the official holiday season. So no doubt.
Right. And speaking of the Switch, Update 4.0 is available now, and it has added video recording and save transfers, meaning you can transfer your saves from one system to the other now. You don't have to worry about being locked to one system. Your saves will transfer from one system to another. Now, in terms of video recording, I was super excited to try this out. So I was playing Mario Kart, a game that runs beautifully at 60 frames per second, and I recorded a 30-second video, and when I went to go post it, I realized I'm not posting this video because this looks like It was super choppy. That thing was struggling to hold 30 frames in that 30-second video. So while it's cool that they added video capture, there's some work that needs to be done. Obviously, that's a work in progress. It's something they said they'll continue to tweak. They also said that they're thinking about extending the recording time. Before you do that, fix the stabilization of it first. Okay, whether it's a locked 30 or a steady 30. I mean, it was all over the place on the Mario Kart video. It was incredibly choppy. It was inconsistent, and it was nowhere near 60 frames. So cool that it's there, but it's got a little bit of a ways to go.
Yeah, I know 30 frames is the cap on it, so but it sounds like it's struggling to hit even that. This only works with certain games too, right? There's only 3 or 4 games that are.
I believe so. Yeah, I tried. Yeah, I tried doing it on. I tried using it on Mario Kart and it worked, and then when I tried it on Golf Story, it didn't. So I assume that it'll be limited for now until developers find a way to get it implemented in those games.
It's weird. It's weird that when Nintendo does some of this stuff, like it only works for certain games. Like with the video stuff, it only works for certain games. With the voice chat thing, it only works with certain games.
Splatoon.
Yeah, and by certain games, I mean Splatoon. So I don't know. I guess I'm just used to when these guys do like firmware updates, like Xbox or PlayStation, like it just universally applies to all the games that are on the system.
But in their defense, it's pretty impressive to see that they have video capture on a handheld device like that. I mean, you can seriously just capture gameplay and post it right to Twitter if you want to, and I think that's cool. But obviously, like I said, they got to stabilize, they got to optimize a little bit better. So it's not just a feature that's there, but it's a feature that you want to use. Like there's really I had the gameplay video from Mario Kart. I was like, I don't want to post that. I don't want to post that at all. So it's cool that it's there. But I want to make it a feature that I definitely want to use over and over and over again to keep showing that blue shell destroy me when I'm clearly ahead of everybody and then lose the match. So
Dude, single player Mario Kart 8 is so irritating.
Mm-hmm.
Beyond irritating.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how good you're doing in a race, how far ahead you are, somehow there's a guy always right behind you, and somebody's always got a red shell or a blue shell or that lightning bolt or something is always right there, no matter what you do or how good you're doing. It's very frustrating.
That's the only game I know that punishes you for driving good. If you drive good and you learn to drift and you make your turns when you're supposed to and you're driving very, very well, the game's like, no, stop doing that. And it punishes you. That drives me nuts. I absolutely can't stand that. So
yeah.
I'm glad they couldn't. I'm glad it didn't capture the voice chat as I was getting destroyed by that blue shell because there was a lot of F-bombs.
Yeah.
But
single player Mario Kart 8, just total BS.
Yeah, I just get no enjoyment out of it. And then the last thing they added also, the Switch now supports wireless headphones. Now, wireless meaning you have to have a dongle plugged into the USB port of the dock. It does not support Bluetooth. So if you have a wireless headset that has a dongle that sends a signal, you can plug that into the USB port on the dock, and boom, you got a wireless headset. You can use it in handheld mode, but you have to get a USB to USB-C adapter for your dongle to hang off of in order to use your wireless headphones. So wireless headphones work, but not Bluetooth. You have to have a dongle that hangs off that transmits the signal over to your headphones. So baby steps. Nintendo's getting there, making it more and more accessible.
If you're going to have a dongle hanging off your handheld, wouldn't you rather just use the wired headphones?
I don't want a dongle hanging off of anything of mine, so. No, sir. No, sir. A couple other things. Telltale's Batman Season 1 is coming to Nintendo Switch on November 14th in North America and number 17th in Europe and Australia. Telltale's also mentioned that Galaxy Season 1 is on its way to Switch, though we don't have a date on that. And lastly, for Nintendo news, Frankie will be very happy about this. Limited Run Games will be bringing physical games to the Nintendo Switch beginning in 2018. Limited Games did not have any details about which specific games are coming, but did say its first release is coming in 2018, and according to them in a follow-up tweet, Limited Run plans to set a slow pace for Switch releases initially, with a focus on console exclusives. So very cool to see Limited Run Games will be bringing physical retail versions of Switch games that normally don't have physical retail versions. So, Frankie, there's another just place for you to throw and burn all your money, dude. Frankie, I think Frankie's the sole reason Limited Run Games is in business. He really is. I think he's bought every single one of them. So, moving from Nintendo over to Xbox, Phil Spencer doesn't like paying for platform-exclusive DLC. Interesting. In an interview with GameSpot at the Brazil Game Show, Spencer explained his views on the practice. Quote, "People always knock me on this. I've been on record. I don't love the idea or practice of us paying so other platforms can't play or use a certain gun in a game or do a certain level," he said. "I know I say that, and Xbox history, DLC exclusivity windows with Call of Duty, I understand the fingers are pointing right back to Xbox. I can only be who I am. It's not the best PR answer, but I don't like it." Spencer also addressed Microsoft's arrangement with Bluehole to bring the record-breaking PlayerUnknown Battleground to Xbox One first, as well as the question as if when the game will come to PlayStation 4. Quote, "People ask, when's that game coming to PlayStation? Look, I've got a deal working with Bluehole to build the very best version of PUBG. That's where I'm focused. Right now we're helping that game come to console. Our focus is on making the best games possible." He also talked about Studio MDHR's Cuphead, which is 100% Microsoft exclusive because of the company's investment in the project. Quote, "When there are games that come along, Cuphead is a good example, and the team had certain ambition about what they wanted to do. And together with them, we wanted to invest more," he explained. "We saw more opportunity, and what that turned into was us having an exclusive game on our platform. That's a game that probably wouldn't have happened the way it did if we didn't invest the way we did." End quote. So I just feel like the whole topic of exclusivity is just poor shit from the people that talk about it. I mean, he doesn't like this or I don't like that, but we do this and we do that. Exclusivity is exclusivity is exclusivity. If you're paying for exclusivity, you support the practice of exclusivity and paying for it. That's just my take on it. You know, it doesn't matter if it's just a gun or if it's a whole game. If you practice exclusivity and paying for stuff to be on your platform only, it is what it is. So, boys, I don't know. What are your thoughts on Phil's comments here?
Yeah, it's just this. Yeah, to me, just sounds like a lot of just PR BS. It's Phil kind of playing up the Xboxes for the gamers type of persona that they've tried to put out over the last few years. You know, with some of their gamer first, initiatives and that kind of stuff. So so to me, it's just him just playing that card one more time. Like, hey man, look, we've created Xbox Game Pass and we got backwards compatibility and we're doing this and this for the gamer. And look, we don't want to buy platform exclusive DLC because it's not good for the gamer. But like I said, it just really sounds like BS because they've got PUBG. They're paying whatever they're paying for that. So that's some type of an exclusive agreement. They like the article mentions, they've supported the development of Cuphead, so that's exclusive to them because they paid money for that. So I think at the end of the day, it just kind of rings hollow. It's like, all right, you don't like paying for platform exclusive DLC, but guess what? If you could have had that DLC deal with Destiny, I'm pretty sure you would have went ahead and took that deal. So, so just is what it is, man.
Mm-hmm. Better, what do you think, dude? Do you think that's kind of like almost like hypocritical in a way, maybe, by saying, you don't like this sort of thing that your competition does, but it's cool when we do it to support our platform?
Yeah, maybe a little bit, but yeah, I agree with Ben. I mean, these are businesses. At the end of the day, they're gonna do what's gonna make them the most money. So if they get these platform exclusive deals, that's what they're gonna do. So he can say what he wants, but they're gonna still do what makes them the most money.
Sony and Microsoft are gonna do whatever they can to make you want to buy their platform. It's really that simple. If Sony wants you to buy Destiny 2 on their platform and make it because it's going to be a big selling game, they're going to buy exclusive content. If Cuphead is going to come out and be one of the best reviewed games of the year, and Microsoft knows they can keep it under their umbrella, they're going to do it. PUBG is a massive, massive game. Microsoft wants to make sure it's on their console first so they can sell consoles. That's all they care about. They want to sell consoles, and they'll do whatever the hell they need to do. They'll write as many checks as they can to make sure they sell their consoles. End of story. That's the way it is. Moving along here, Ni no Kuni 2 is not in development for Xbox One, says Bandai Namco. And on the back of that rumor surrounding Ni no Kuni 2 on Xbox One, NIS claims Microsoft hasn't been supportive for Japanese games. According to, I didn't realize this was, now I know why it's called NIS, but according to Nippon Ichi Software America, President Takuro Yamashita, Microsoft hasn't been very supportive of Japanese games. Since this is NIS America, Yamashita is talking about bringing Japanese games to the Xbox One and not selling loads of Xbox Ones in Japan. In an interview with MCV, Yamashita said, honestly speaking, Microsoft's approach to Japanese games hasn't been very supportive. Microsoft, for Japanese games, there's still a very niche element to them, no matter what it might be. Continuing, Yamashita adds, Microsoft also has a minimum order quantity for their games, and their whole structure isn't really geared towards niche games or smaller games like Japanese titles, so they're not really supportive of Japanese games or developers. Now, NIS America isn't turning its back on Xbox One, and the company said it will keep an eye on what consoles its fans are using. So it sounds like this, to me, based on everything he's saying here, it definitely sounds like this whole thing about Microsoft has a minimum order quantity for their games. That sounds like that must be the big hurdle for this for Japanese developers.
Yeah, this is interesting. You don't often see a look into business dealings kind of this way. and we don't have a ton of information here, but it makes sense when you look at it. I guess there's not really many Japanese titles on the Xbox One, or many like niche Japanese titles, if any at all. I can't think of any off the top of my head that are on there. So there's got to be something to what they're saying, because none of these games are on there.
Right.
So I wonder if this applies to some of the smaller games or the independent games that people are trying to get onto the platform as well. Obviously, we don't see the breadth of the same amount of games on the Xbox platform as we do on PlayStation. So I wonder if this factors into that as well.
Well, just in general, the Xbox does not do well in Japan. I believe the Wii U has outsold the Xbox in Japan.
Definitely.
It's people don't care about the Xbox in Japan. So I mean that would make sense that there wouldn't be a whole lot of Japanese games on it.
And this is it's important to note again that this is NIS America that's talking about this. So it's them trying to get these games onto American Xbox Ones. So they're trying to publish Japanese games on Xbox One here in America, and it's just not something that they're able to do right now.
And the last bit of Xbox news, did any of you guys see Shadow of War running on the Xbox One X on Digital Foundry? Did either of you guys see that video?
I didn't watch the video. I read the article about it. So that's the extent of my experience with it.
It is a beautiful looking game on the Xbox One X. I mean, you can see, finally we kind of get to see, I mean, not to take anything away from the Pro, we've seen what the Pro can do. I mean, Horizon Zero Dawn is an absolutely gorgeous looking game. And then you see what the benefits of the Xbox One X, you can see it there compared to the PS4 Pro. Just sharper texture quality. It's just it looks absolutely fantastic. I am just really excited to see how some of these games look, using the guts of the Xbox One X to get the most out of these games. You know, and the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X is the reason I bought a 4K TV, and I can't wait to reap the benefits of both those consoles, you know, going forward, to seeing how they can get the most out of these systems. But if you get a chance, you guys, check out the Shadow of War comparison between the Pro and the Xbox One X. It is staggering. Like, especially some of the textures they show in quality mode on the Xbox One X. It is night and day difference. It is really, really impressive to see it in action. That's going to do it for this week's show. Gentlemen, where can we find you gaming and tweeting? Mr. Boyce.
As always, Brent, I'll be not tweeting at Piccolo930. It's my PSN ID as well. It's where you can find me on the Switch. And once again, we'll be here 10 p.m. Eastern Tuesday night for the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight. We'll have a doubleheader with Franklin and myself. We'll be playing Slayaway Camp Butcher's Cut and The Mummy Demastered. Just be on the lookout for that.
Awesome. Mr. Holt?
You can find me on Twitter at Bender_Guitar, on PlayStation Network and Nintendo Network at me_Bender, and on Xbox Live at meBender82.
Awesome. You can find me on Twitter at TheDude1979, Xbox Live, TheRealDude79, PlayStation Network and Nintendo Switch, TheDude79. You can find Viper Strike, pretty simple, on the Switch, Xbox Live, PlayStation Network, NeoGAF, Pornhub, all of it at Viper Strike. It's the same thing across all boards. That's where you can find Frankie. Make sure you visit the website, www.shortpause.com. Follow us on Twitter at @TheShortPause. If you like this podcast, if you really enjoy it, go over to iTunes, give us a 5-star rating, write out a nice review, tell us what you like about the show. If you're not ready to give us a 5-star rating, that's fine. We don't want any fake ones. Send us an email, podcast@shortpause.com. Let us know what you like, what you don't like. If you have some suggestions, if you have any criticisms, anything, we need to hear from you. It's the only way this show will get better. If you don't want to write an email, go over to the website, head right into the podcast post. There's a comment section below. Fill it out. We're always checking those comments. We want to hear from you. It's the only way we can make this show the show you want it to be. You can listen to this podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Google Play, and Stitcher, or you can watch it right here on YouTube, Short Pause Gaming. You can also watch us on Twitch, Short Pause Gaming, Mixer, Short Pause Gaming, and on Facebook, Short Pause Gaming. Just also a reminder, along with the Tuesday Night Indie Spotlight this week, Frankie and I will be running a dual stream at midnight on Thursday. I'll be on YouTube with Wolfenstein 2. He'll be on Twitch with Assassin's Creed Origins. So make sure you subscribe to those channels to get notifications when we go live. And we'll be watching the comments. We want to hear from you as we're playing those games. Bender
and I will be at home playing Mario.
Yeah.
Bender will be. You won't be at all. So for Mr. Holt and the Liar, I'm Brent Felsing. Thanks again for listening and watching the Short Pause Gaming Podcast. We'll talk to you next week. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Guys.